Good morning, good morning, good morning, law nerds. It's good to see you. It is day 3 of the Gwyneth Paltrow ski crash case. Gwyneth is not in court yet. They are putting things in the record. I'm going to summarize what they're doing this morning, summarize the case for you, just jumping in, and then we will go to Corey is not back yet this morning. They won't be back for a little bit. Here's what's happening right now. They are going over a deposition that they have not edited down. This happened outside of our presence during we heard video depositions. If there were objections during the deposition, things needed to come out. They're talking about a doctor that I discussed on the podcast this week who had talked about using fMRI to diagnose post-concussive syndrome. The fMRI, the court ruled, is not reliable in that use case. So all of the references to that had to come out. So they are now going over the transcript of the edited deposition to decide what stays in and what comes out from that edited deposition. This case is over a ski collision. A lot of people are like, why are we even here? Both sides say that the other person is the one that hit them, so that the other person is liable for the crash. In Utah, liability is if you are 50% at fault, you cannot recover. So if you are equally at fault, you cannot recover. And they are fighting over attorney's fees, basically, but for costs and damages for the plaintiff, and then for $1 as symbolism for Gwyneth Paltrow. So we're going to go join court already in session. Let me know where you're coming in from and what you're drinking. We will go through all the rest of the stuff. But hi, everyone. Nice to see you on UK TV. This is Emily. It was early this morning, and it was great. I'm not worried. I'm tired. I was up at 3 a.m. to the UK. Sorry, my voice is a little cranky, and I am a little bit tired. Not worried at all. Maybe I'm pre-annoyed with these lawyers and the fact that we're going to be doing medical depositions today, because that's what we're doing this morning. Don't worry, I've got hot tea coming, and I've been doing that for days. It's just been a long few days. So with all of that, let's go to our judge, who we enjoy so much. I'm going to turn the volume up in court. We're going to turn the radio off, turn the radio on,
through 13 on page 88,
and go
14,
through
and then we'll strike
depositions.
22 through.
So in
page
depth, we heard
89,
this all
94.
happened. It happened on Fridays outside of our presence.
Anything else?
I thought it was a good use of court time having Fridays off to do this stuff.
I think that's so we're striking the line. Or
The lawyers were
88,
very
22
sassy last night
through
at the end of court.
89.
So I went back and watched that
Line
because
four.
I had interviews yesterday, a bunch of interviews yesterday.
Correct.
So
Good, thank you.
I went back and watched the lawyer sass
That's
at the end of the day. Gwyneth will not be testifying today. It looks like she'll be
Is the
testifying
jury here and ready
tomorrow.
to go? Why don't you have them start getting ready? I mean, are there any other issues we need to address this morning?
I was just going to tell them, one thing, if I might.
Let's see. The plaintiff is supposed to testify this
How was the
afternoon
transition at the end of court yesterday?
at some point.
In fact, I wanted to, any irritation I've expressed, none of that's been directed to Your Honor or your staff.
We've
or
expressed
the court
irritation as
media
well, sir.
representative. It's been
Interpreted that way,
great.
counsel.
I did want to know if a new AP still camera has been installed.
Where?
I'm asking,
Oh, no.
because I heard there was going to be a new AP still camera installed directly over the
They
lectern.
withdrew that request.
Okay, thank you.
The Associated Press is sick of your client's shit. That's just me
apparently, I
interpreting.
want to do this transparently. This
What is this?
private security for my client wanted to
Paltrow's not going to testify
bring
today.
in
I heard the
treats
witness
for
list
the
yesterday.
bailiffs for how helpful they've been. So I wanted to do that
So
transparently.
Gwyneth
and
will
see if there are
testify
any
tomorrow.
objections.
It's been cleared that she does not need to even be there today.
There's an objection,
Okay,
so
so I will let them know.
let them know thank you, but no thank you.
Well, Lee, skip most of yesterday. It was just medical testimony.
Well, you can bring in treats. So.
Okay. If
The
parties
cameras
decide
again.
to do that later, that's fine too.
We'll talk about cameras.
I mean, you should have asked us first, frankly.
It hasn't been done.
I know, you should have asked us first. We can talk about it, but you just sprung it on us now. So we object.
What'd you find out about the jury? No? Okay. Is everyone ready to begin?
Yes, they want to bring in
5 minutes,
muffins
maybe?
for the bailiffs. Normally, you don't have to ask permission for that.
3 minutes? Okay.
And Your Honor, one thing that we didn't address that I think we should in terms of showing this video is, and maybe nothing that I asked to go in is in. I'm trying to recall here now.
There was one section, I think.
So I think
No,
it'll
we're
need
not
to be
started
read
yet.
because it's not on the video. So
Yeah, if we get to that, you can just.
I'm happy to just read it if that's the best way to go forward.
I think that is the best way to go forward.
We thought we could put Norman on the stand, have him read the question, have her read the answer.
Sure, and that's on page 49.
Wait, they're
That's
not
fine.
playing the deposition?
And if you get into a situation, Mr. Sorensen, where you can't, mute it and bring it back, you can read those portions as well.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, they didn't re-edit it. That's fair. So, all right. The
You said
plaintiff
page
is not
49?
present. The defendant is not present.
Because our understanding
trial's
was the
wild.
objection was that everything was remaining in and they wanted it out.
On page 49,
They're
Mhm.
still arguing over
is
objections.
that what we're talking
I
about?
thought
Paltrow
I had
will not
agreed that we
testify
could just
today.
Have that in.
And I don't think it's not out right now.
They confirmed it at the end of court yesterday.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But we'd have to read it in.
I think it's in.
Oh, sorry. I have in and out written here. I'm confused.
It's okay. I
And
think
I
we'll
was
just,
up till 1 looking at
I
this.
think it's, yeah,
it's in.
I'm
We'll
just
just
sorry.
wanted it out. He's got it in state.
I'm sorry.
play the video. We're good.
Sorry.
We're good.
So 53,
And
50.
Judge, just so you know, this is about a
Sigh.
minute, an hour and 19 seconds.
Thank you.
Now, if we need to take a break in between, that's fine. I think it's not a bad idea. So you just tell us when to take a short break if we need to, as you know.
All right.
Thank you.
We have an hour of video deposition this morning from another doctor. Let's summarize what happened yesterday real quick. Yesterday, there were 2 medical professionals that testified to the plaintiff's injury and his head injury post-concussive syndrome and what happened from a ski fall. It's not controversial ski fall. How much he's injured, how much brain injury he has had is in controversy. Who caused the collision is in controversy. The fact that a collision happened is not in controversy. It's just which way it happened. If the jury finds that they're both at fault, everyone loses and nobody gets attorney's fees. At the end of the day, the jury could go 50-50, you both are at fault on the ski slope. And then everything just stays the way that it is now with everybody paying for their own stuff. So Maria asked, will you be here with us all day? I will be here most of the day. I will be here most of the day. So with that, let me go find a feed that has not switched to, okay, there we go. We're back. I will be here most of the day. Depending on the afternoon witnesses, I might come back a little late from lunch. The plaintiff is going to testify late in the afternoon. That is what I am most interested in seeing. I'm interested in seeing the plaintiff's testimony, Paltrow's testimony, the cross-examination of both of them, and closing. Those are the things I'm most interested in. With the medical experts, honestly, I don't doubt that this person, Gwyneth, is coming back into court. I don't doubt that, and went with a suit today. I don't doubt that this plaintiff has some injury. I don't. I doubt how this collision happened. It's not clear to me how this collision happened. It's not clear to me at all how this happened, but there is injury to him. He is supposed to be testifying today. He's supposed to be. Why the objection on treats for the bailiffs? I don't think it was an objection. I think it was to something else, but I was talking. But they did say you should have run it by us first instead of just springing it on us. It's not improper for the for a part in stuff for the court staff when they are particularly helpful. If my feed is glitching, I am not seeing it on my end at all. My stream health looks good, so I would refresh the stream. I don't even have weird weather here today, so I would refresh the stream and see if that helps. So that's on it, and we'll look at the stream health in the background, but it should be good. So with all of that, The jury is coming back in. We're going to get into an hour of video deposition, again, talking about the plaintiff's brain. So, with all of that, uh-oh. Yeah, our stream health looks good. So go ahead and refresh. Those of you that are seeing glitches, that is not a stream health issue. That might be a YouTube issue. And then we will continue on. The jury is back. So here we go. And we will see what happened. All right. I'm going to get to some questions. Hey, Runkle, good to see you in the chat. I'm sure you're as tired of this case as everybody else is. It's not the case so much. These lawyers are a bit exhausting. The judges' bow ties are always on point. Witchy princess.
The lawyers are getting ready to show you a videotaped piece of testimony, and they're just finishing their preparations for that. So we're just going to sit and wait for just a minute.
Delightful. Has anyone answered what happened to the GoPro footage? No, this will come up in defendant's case or
That
in
looks much better.
cross-examination of plaintiff. It came up in the opening statements that there was an email where one of the plaintiff's daughters said, oh, it's all on GoPro, something to that effect. That's a summary. Those aren't the exact words because I don't remember it exactly. And then we were all like, what GoPro? And then the lawyer for Paltrow started arguing, wouldn't it be nice to have that footage, and got objected to. So there is insinuation that the GoPro footage is missing and that Paltrow never got it. Question. So this case hinges on if Gwyneth is the cause or a cause. Yes. Well, of the accident. The
How's the
cause
jury?
of the
Any
accident.
trouble hearing?
And who was downhill?
Okay.
Yes, it does. So it seems like the GoPro footage is gone. They're going to argue, well, I don't know what the
Does
plaintiff
anyone need
is
a
going to
hearing
say.
assist device? I've got those.
I don't know what the plaintiff is going to say. But the defendant is going to say, if he's not at fault, why get rid of it? Why not keep it? That's your smoking gun. The plaintiff has been in court only for opening and has not been in court since that I have seen.
Yeah, we have that.
They told the jury that he may not be in court regarding the medical injury testimony because it is too difficult.
March 14th, 2023. This is the case of Terry Sanderson.
The employees of the ski slopes, that's an odd video view. It looks like the screen looks splotchy. So
Versus Gwyneth Paltrow. Case number 1905.
oh, YouTube knows that the bots love this channel. I'm
May I
teasing.
ask where the sound is actually coming from?
Oh gosh. It seems like there's been some YouTube updates. So for those of you having some glitchiness, I apologize. Our stream health on the back end where we can check it looks fine.
1915.
So
Hey, we're on record. My name is Lance Harrison. I'm the videographer. The court reporter is Roxanne Morgan.
Is that
We
okay?
represent Diplomax Merritt, located in Salt Lake City, Utah. The time of day indicated on the Zoom feed is 1:15
this is going to be
p.m.
painful.
Mountain Time,
Just buckle up.
March 14th, 2023. This is the case
Painful.
of Terry Sanderson.
No, there seems to be an echo or something. Is there-
Just buckle up. This morning's going to be, well, video depositions.
Case number 1905-00048 in the 3rd Judicial District Court.
So for those of you that are at lawnerds.unite.com, you're going to be getting a heads up about tonight's stream with me and Dr. B.
Lawrence Bueller for Plaintiff Terry Sanderson.
That'll be up this afternoon.
James Egan for defendant Gwyneth Paltrow.
Very good. Let's begin.
Just 1 second. Bob Sykes, and I think Peter Sorensen will be here also, the plaintiff Terry Sanderson. And I have in the room my paralegal Eric Jurgensen.
Okay, doctor, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead, counsel.
Good afternoon, Dr. Fong. Could you state your name and spell it for the record, please?
Sure. My name is Alina. Oh, don't know if I should give you my full name, Kapahu Pinea Kalekoa Fong. And I will spell that for you. That's Alina, Alina, KAPAHUPINEAKALEI.
The Dr. B stream will be up for replay
Fong,
on Law Nerds Unite.
Okay.
Yes, it will.
And where were you born?
Yeah, Dr. Fong.
I was born, I was
lovely.
born in Sacramento, California, but moved to Hawaii when I was about 1 month old.
Okay. So where did you grow up?
In Honolulu, Hawaii.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you education before I get into training. But before we start, what is the topic of your testimony, just in general terms, so we have an introduction for the jury?
Well, from what I understand, I'm talking about a patient of mine named Terry, who sustained a concussion and subsequent post-concussion symptoms after an injury in February.
They didn't ask who her family was, nor
Okay,
did they
thank you.
ask if she is a Gamecock
Please
fan.
describe
It's a
your
very different trial.
education, starting with high school.
Well, I graduated from Kamehameha High School. That's Kemehameha. I graduated in 95, which dates me. I went straight to BYU, where I did my undergraduate work. I also did a master's and a PhD.
Girl, you're in good company here.
Here at BYU. And then went on to my internship residency at the VA hospital in Salt Lake City.
Okay, and at the BYU, what was your graduate degrees in?
So I obtained a PhD in clinical psychology with an emphasis in neuropsychology, and my field of study was EEG and fMRI.
I know all the anime nerds in the
Okay, now
chat
I'd like
are
to get
giggling
into
at
your
Kamehameha,
training.
but
Can you describe your
her
training in,
family is clearly Hawaiian.
psychology?
Sure.
And how many years? And how many years? I'll let you go ahead.
Yep.
So I had an undergraduate degree, which was 4 years. I then entered a master's program, which was 3 years, and then
And then went to
matriculated
med
into a PhD program, which was 5 years. I had the opportunity to be the only neuropsych emphasis student.
Dr. PhD.
So I got to train with one of my mentors, Dr. Aaron Bigler, one-on-one for much of my training. Also other professors in neuroscience. So it was a really wonderful program that allowed me a lot of one-on-one time with these great mentors of mine. I graduated, well, I finished my dissertation and then went off to internship. And I did my internship, like I mentioned, at the Veterans Hospital here in Salt Lake City, right in 2007 and 2008, which you may recall was right during the Iraq and Afghanistan war, so OIF and OEF. And that's where I gleaned a lot more of my concussion training.
Okay, and
So she is another
Explain
neuropsych.
what we're doing here. Sure, there's portions of the transcript that don't need to be read in court openly, so they'll be skipping over some of that.
And they didn't have time to edit the full video. Because lawyers are not YouTubers. YouTubers get it done! So they're skipping parts of the transcript. But she is a neuropsych. She is going to talk again about her treatment of this plaintiff and go from there. Look, we've heard very little about the mechanism of the crash and who caused the crash, and very much about the injuries of the crash. If this jury comes back 50-50, none of this damages testimony is going to matter. So that's where we are. So I see some of you saying it's still glitching. This is going to be delightful to sit through long periods of silence. At least we'll get to talk.
clinical work that you haven't already
So if you guys have
mentioned,
questions,
can
be
you
sure
tell-
to ask them with a
In that
question in front so I can grab them.
Okay, and Any other hospital or clinical work that you haven't already mentioned? Can you tell the
Alexandria, I've
jury?
heard that quite a lot.
Sure, yes. So this is my 18th year working for Intermountain Healthcare as a neuropsychologist. I started there in neurotrauma rehab, which really was focusing more on inpatient, severe and moderate traumatic brain injury patients. And we had a wonderful multidisciplinary team there, but I did neuropsychological assessments on patients in the hospital and also in the outpatient realm. And I'm still working for IHC. I've been able to help open 2 concussion clinics for IHC, one at Utah Valley Regional and one at American Fork, where I'm still working part-time there.
And neuropsych is going to be
I also
testing
work
function
for,
after.
I have a clinic here called Cognitive Effects, which is a
After
clinic where
brain injury.
we cater to, and we specialize in chronic, persistent post-concussion symptom patients. And then I also have a clinic called Neural Effects, which is located in Provo as well, and we cater more towards the acute, newly injured patients.
If they are
Can you explain to
70-30,
the jury
the person at the
the
30%
types
wins.
of TBI victims that you've treated and dealt with in your career?
Sure. Earlier on in my career, I really focused on moderate and severe traumatic brain injury. So these are patients that either needed neurosurgery or they had a skull fracture or some type of bleeding in the brain, and they were typically in a coma for part of it, whether it was medically induced or part of the traumatic brain injury. I then also moved on to seeing more of the mild realm. So I've actually seen the whole spectrum of traumatic brain injury, but I have stayed in this mild traumatic brain injury realm, which is synonymous with concussion.
What does mild mean in mild traumatic brain injury?
So by mild, we don't necessarily mean the symptoms are mild. What that means is that it's not life or death. Okay, so we're not dealing with someone that needs, a shunt placed. We're not dealing with swelling and that we need to remove part of the skull. When the term mild was given, it really just meant that this is a patient with a closed head injury, right? But did not need surgical intervention of that type. So that's where the term mild comes from. But the symptoms can be very, very serious for a patient with concussion.
Hey, you mentioned Aaron Bigler. Can you describe for the jury who he is and what you did studying under him?
Sure. Aaron Bigler has been the president of both of the neuropsychological associations. He is probably the most renowned neuropsychologist because he pioneered this marriage between neuropsychologists and advanced neuroimaging. He has been instrumental in creating and helping mentor other neuropsychologists that have also gone into other types of advanced neuroimaging fields. He's just, I think, probably the most prominent, if not one of the most prominent neuropsychologists to date, internationally.
Okay, let's talk about the clinic.
We should have started an hour
Let's
later
see,
and put this on
in your
2X.
professional specialties and interests. There's,
We're going
children,
live.
adults in general.
But if
and
we go
concussion
live,
victims.
if we don't go live, then
describe
everybody's
that.
like, Emily Court has started.
Sure. I specialize in the entire age range of concussions.
You guys have good questions. I'm gonna get to them when we get
we treat
a
people
little bit of a break. Thank
really
you for
between the
asking
ages
them
of
so I can see
8
them.
and 99. At Neural Effects, we see people of all ages, even babies and toddlers. And at American Fork Concussion Clinic, we
I
also see
talked
people
about that
of all ages.
yesterday. I'll talk about that more.
Okay, and then about your clinic or work, what is it and how long has it been around?
This is Dr. Fong.
Okay, so again, I have 2 clinics,
For the
but I think the one in
plaintiff.
question would be Cognitive Effects, since that's where I treated Terry. We've been around here in Utah for about 8 years. Prior to that, our first opening was actually in Boston. It wasn't here. We were getting this one off the ground, but the first clinic we opened was in Boston in partnership with Tom Brady, who was, he played for the Patriots at the time. But he and
I did not
one
have
of
Tom
his
Brady on my bingo card for
trainers
this trial.
opened up TB12, which stood for Tom Brady and his number 12, but it was TB12 Sports Therapy and Concussion Clinic, and we were the concussion arm of that clinic there.
Okay,
And
that's
so that's where it all
interesting.
started, and then 2 years later we opened here in Provo.
The reason they're using
Okay.
video deposition is because
How
her
many
schedule does
employees
not allow
are
her
at
to
your
be at
clinic?
trial.
We have about 70 to 75 right now employees.
They're
Okay, and
establishing
what
her
types of
expertise. That's why they're
employees?
asking all
Let's
about
say
this.
starting with the MDs and
Cynthia.
PhDs, the doctors.
So we
Cynthia in the
have
chat did have Tom
variety
Brady
of
on her
MDs.
bingo
We
card.
have a neurosurgeon, who's one of my partners, Dr. Lynn Gaffane. We have Dr. Bruce McKiff, who is our in-house neuroradiologist. We have a doctor of nurse practitioner. We have a PhD. We have PhD neuropsychology. We have several clinical psychologists. We have physical therapists, occupational therapists, neuromuscular therapists, cognitive therapists, speech language pathologists, vision specialists, vestibular specialists, neurosensory integration specialists, sensory motor specialists, and so on and so on. I'm sure I'm missing some, but we have all of these therapists that are licensed all in-house.
They have an
and
extensive
we
clinic to
are
deal
able
with
to do a very
neurological injury.
multi-factored
Okay.
boot camp program here, which caters to these much more chronic, difficult cases.
Like Dr. Sanderson's, Terry Sanderson's?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Before I get to that, Terry Sanderson, the plaintiff, what about the equipment at your facility or your
Oh, Sue,
clinic?
thank you for the insight.
Are
Appreciate
you
it.
referring to the MRI machine that we have?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have a 1.5 Tesla MRI machine in-house.
Wait,
which
they
makes
gauge
it really
MRI
convenient to be able to
machines in
scan these
Teslas?
patients
That's their unit of
before and
measurement?
after treatment, sometimes
Oh, I
in
love it.
between treatment weeks as well, to track recovery, to track severity.
When you say
Interesting.
recovery, do people recover completely in a clinical setting such as yours?
Leslie asking the real question,
No,
but
we
were there
definitely have
muffins?
some people
Were there
that-
muffins?
Recover completely, they will report they recover completely. I'd say that comprises of about maybe 15% of our patients. About 85% will say that they have significant improvement, but it is a brain injury, and sometimes
I know
effects
Tesla
can
as
be
in
lifelong.
Nikolai. I know.
Okay.
I just didn't know that that's how the power of MRI machines was determined. I didn't
We
know
lost
it was
you,
a
Lawrence.
unit of measure. I love it. I love learning new things in trial. This is the video on their end glitching,
You.
not us.
Okay.
You can see her face going, I
Can you hear
can't
us?
hear you.
Lawrence, can you hear me?
Why don't you edit this
Okay.
part out,
Yeah.
lawyers, for
I can hear you.
fuck's sake?
You guys are all fine. I don't know what's going
Oh
on.
yeah,
Can you hear
we
me now?
lost you for a long time there. So
That was not a long time, counsel. God, her,
Okay,
her attorney is always just like,
Where do
yeah,
your
we lost you
patients
for a
come
long
from?
time.
They
Just
come
edit
from all
it.
over the world, actually.
Jeez,
I'd say
they're
maybe about
depositions.
25% of our patients are from Utah, but 75% come from all over the United States. And, well, no, I'd say about
I know I'm glitching too.
5% come from the rest of the US, and another 10% come from all over the world.
This deposition
we
has already
typically
been
have,
edited,
On average, about
and
4 of our
yes,
20
depos can be
patients here,
edited.
4 of our
It's,
18 to 20 patients coming
there's a process
from
to do it.
Europe.
I'm
or,
loving where all
you
their
know, we have
patients
some
are coming from.
Israel, Asia,
You
from
do
Canada.
edit depositions, you
So
edit
it's
out
really
questions
kind
that
of
were
the
objected to
United
and stuff, and you'll
Nations
see
here,
cuts
during
on
the
them, and then
deposition.
those edits have to be agreed upon by everybody.
Can I interrupt 1 second? The camera is cutting off the top of your head sometimes. There you go, that's better.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay.
So in this
Okay.
context, you can edit things. We're live.
Now, at your clinic, as you earlier described that you cover all sorts of patients. Can you explain what a closed head brain injury is?
Sure. A closed head brain injury typically means it's a non-penetrating injury. So it's an injury that where there's no skull fracture, but there's like a jolting or kind of a rapid kind of force movement that has the brain, here shaking inside of a skull. But a
I love
closed
that
head
she's
injury
like,
means
let
that
me
there's
grab
no
my brain
penetration
for
of the
you.
skull into the brain, and no skull fracture.
Okay.
I love that she has her toy
And,
brain. Well, it's not a toy. It's
what is
clearly a
an
medical demonstrative, but
MTBI?
you know what I mean.
An MTBI is considered a mild traumatic brain injury. And as I mentioned before, mild doesn't mean the symptoms are mild. Mild is just in reference to being juxtaposed to moderate and severe, which mean more of a bleeding in the brain or more kind of organic neurologic findings.
I think to the person,
So MTBI is
any
synonymous
injury
with
to their brain
concussion
might not feel
because
mild
a
to them.
concussion, actually, as part of the diagnostic criteria, has no findings on structural imaging, and that means CT and MR.
Velo,
and
this witness is limited in their testimony, and a lot
what
was
is
edited out.
PCS or post-concussion symptoms?
So PCS is the name of the complex process that occurs when a patient has been struggling with concussion sequela
I thought it was check out the big brain on
over a long
Brad.
period of time.
I
In
thought,
fact, there are different kind of categories
Lucy, that's what I thought,
of
but yes,
post-concussion symptoms.
they
If
do.
you have symptoms
they
for
do
more
love
than 3 to 6
showing
months, for
things.
more than that,
Dr. B
you
has
can
lots
be
of
categorized
skulls.
as persistent post-concussion symptoms or persistent post-concussive symptoms. So what this is
And
just
brains, lots
a
of
patient
brains,
that
gray.
has concussion symptoms past a certain amount of time, and in Terry's case, by the time I saw him, he was struggling with these concussion symptoms for almost a year and a half.
It does seem like
Okay.
that would be more efficient, but
And,
both parties are going to do damages, so
um,
we're going to get through both parties doing damages.
So are these names closed head injury, MTBI, post-concussion syndrome? These are the symptoms that Terry has?
So, yeah, these are different
We can
I guess,
bust out the skulls this
names
evening.
of different diagnoses that he could have. He had an MTBI, which is a concussion, but then you can also have PCS because that comes like
PCS
in a
being
timeline after
post-concussive
someone gets an MTBI.
syndrome.
But yes, he was diagnosed with a concussion and MTBI, and then also with the sequela, which is PCS or persistent post-concussive symptoms.
Okay. What are the risk factors for harmful consequences from a concussion?
Risk factors. Okay, so I think what you're asking me are there certain things that a person can
Husband
go through
does.
or have?
We've also
that
have
could
friends that have dealt with
increase
it.
their chances of having more issues with concussions? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, there are definitely risk factors. There was a study that was done by one of my colleagues, Michael McRae. It was one of these seminal studies that actually pointed out that there are several what we call risk factors that can lead to a more complicated recovery and a more complicated presentation of symptoms.
Thank you.
In Terry's case specifically, he met several of them.
Concussive syndrome.
One was he actually
She
had
has a
a prior
brain though,
diagnosis
and we
of
were
anxiety
talking
and
about
depression. And so
your
having
skulls.
a prior mental
Her brain
health
was not in the
history
skull.
is one
Hers
of
is
the
just a
big
brain.
risk factors for PCS and persistent post-concussion symptoms.
The doctor.
Another
We were
one
talking about your
was
skulls.
migraine history. So if someone has a
skulls?
history of
All of
headaches or
your,
migraines prior,
medical demonstrative
that is also a
skulls.
risk factor. And another one
I did see that.
was some of the structural brain findings that he had as well. I think it was called normal pressure hydrocephaly. Those are also some risk factors for post-concussion
No,
symptoms.
it was like a big medical model.
In Terry's case, what do risk factors mean?
Dr. B says hi, Leonard.
Well, in Terry's case and in other patients' cases, it means that puts them at a much higher likelihood to have this complicated presentation and this complicated recovery. You know, it's just harder for them to recover, and their symptoms can last longer and feel quite debilitating.
So, in your opinion, Terry has persistent post-concussion syndrome or symptoms. In your opinion, has he recovered, or will he ever recover?
Terry came to my clinic about 2017, so a little under 6 years ago.
So was that a year after the crash?
And he worked
Or
so
6 months
hard.
after the
He
crash?
really, you know, gave his best effort, and he did notice, and we noticed some definite improvements. But talking to him now, knowing where he is now, it is still showing clearly that he's still struggling. And so, I mean, if I have a fault, it's that I am an eternal optimist, and I always, you know, want to keep treating and keep working, because I know
I love doctors
neuroplasticity
if
is
I have a
real.
fault.
But, you know, I think we're getting to the point where he's 76, and I do worry that some of these issues may be long-standing, but I still have some hope.
Okay. Let's talk about your process.
Oh, she
at
said a
your
year and a half
clinic.
after the accident. Okay. Thank you, Anna.
You do a clinical
haven't-
interview.
I
Can you
haven't
explain
had
why and what
coffee
that
yet.
means?
Sure. So,
So yes,
before
2017 makes sense, a year and a half after treatment.
one of the very first
Fine.
times that I met with Terry, I sat down with him and we went over what we call a clinical interview. And that is information gathering. I'm trying to assess what happened to him. I want to know what his symptoms were like. I wanted to hear about the injury that occurred. And so it's a really good way to gather information and to get a really good history of the patient. You know, I'll ask about psychiatric history. I'll ask about some prior medical history. I'll ask about some prior
The
concussions
accident happened in
as
2016.
well. And so it
I have
allows
the
me
date in my
to
notes somewhere.
assess what's going on and
Find my
to then
notes.
have a clinical
February
diagnosis
26,
based on that
2016.
clinical interview.
Was the date of the accident.
Okay. When you first met with Terry, I think it was August of 2017. Is
Marty,
that,
I believe I said it before,
sound
and I will
correct?
say it
That
again.
sounds
Gwyneth
correct,
is
yes.
not testifying
that was about
today.
a year and a half after the
Is not.
ski crash that is
The
the subject
plaintiff
of this
is
case.
testifying today. Gwyneth is
And,
testifying
What
tomorrow.
was his diagnosis at the time
According
when he
to
came to your
scheduling.
clinic?
Well, he already came with a concussion diagnosis.
Parts
right?
of her testimony got
And it was
yeeted.
my job at that point
Only
to
parts.
to confirm that. I felt that he did meet that criteria, but I also was able to list out a year and a half later, 15 months later, what symptoms
Huh.
he was still struggling with. And for me, what's most important is if those symptoms were things that I thought that I could treat, right, that I could help him with.
Is self-reporting and clinical questionnaire, like in Terry's case, how normal is that in assessing neuropsychological issues in the medical community or the psychological community?
So, very common. In fact, most of the time, by the time a patient gets to me, they've already had diagnoses from several other clinicians, right? I mean,
You don't
usually a
get to the
neuropsychologist
specialist.
is not their first person they go to, okay?
That makes sense.
But, you know, really, as a clinician, the best way to ascertain if someone has a concussion is to ask them questions. You know, we have some different types of tests that we can do as well, like balance tests and vision tests.
He was there during opening.
that
If
we
you
can
just
do with
zoom
them,
back
which
to
are very
opening,
easy
I
to
clipped
do,
that out into a separate video. He
and
was there
can be
during
done,
opening
you know,
and introduced to the
very
jury.
quickly in a clinical setting. But yeah, for the most part, it's talking
No,
to
Marty,
them,
it's okay. I just
talking
don't want people
about
to get their
what symptoms
hopes
they
up
have,
and be
when the
waiting
symptoms
for
started,
Gwyneth.
and
That'll be tomorrow.
really identify kind of an inciting event or a cause for what happened and when these symptoms started to come about.
This
What,
was filed in
sense do you have, or
2019,
any
so
evidence do you
that I
have
have to
that
assume there's a
Terry
3-year statute
might
of
have been
limitations because it
lingering,
didn't get yeeted.
exaggerating, or faking his symptoms?
None whatsoever. Terry showed up to every appointment on time. He gave his best effort. The treatment that we do is very, very intensive. So it required Terry to show up every morning on time.
Jan A., no
to give his
victims in
best
this
effort
case.
in every single therapy
Plaintiff,
appointment.
because this is
and we're
a
looking
civil
at,
case,
you know,
plaintiff is
in
now
a given
76.
week that he was with
Plaintiff
us, 32
was
hours of
69 at the
therapy,
time of the
right?
incident.
He was an ideal patient. I got to see him every day while he was here in treatment and
And
got
that's
to follow up
intensive
with him
therapy.
and connect with him. And there was no issue with any of our therapists that he was in any way malingering or faking this. In fact, it was almost the opposite. You know, Terry is, you know, a very, very intelligent man, and he didn't want to be injured. I mean, I think that was really clear. It was he's someone that doesn't want to be sick, and
I
was
understand
willing
that
to do
feeling.
everything he possibly could to improve where he was at.
Yeah, it sucks when your body
Thank
and
you.
brain don't work the way you want them to.
What is your understanding about his concussion in the ski crash of February 26, 2016?
I honestly, I don't disbelieve his injury,
I mean, was it?
But that
was
could
the
happen
ski crash,
regardless
a
of who
cause or
caused the crash.
of his concussion?
Objection leading.
Okay, I'll rephrase. You're familiar with the ski crash of 2016 he was in February, right?
Correct.
What are, I'm getting at your preliminary opinions at this point. What significant problems was Terry suffering from, in your opinion, from this ski
Lindy,
crash of
they
2016?
are questioning the extent
Well,
of his
he was
injuries.
reporting a myriad of symptoms.
So yes, they are questioning
including
the extent.
cognitive issues. So, you know, he wasn't, you know, he was fatigued. He wasn't thinking as clearly as he was before. He reported some issues with mood, personality changes, pain as well, headaches.
I eat
and
cereal
so
when I
on.
forget to eat too. And Dr. B also helps me remember to
And,
eat. But Dr. Curry, I believe,
how
is also
significant were these
ADHD.
problems, in your opinion?
Why I love her so much.
Well, I mean, according to Terry's report, you know, these were quite significantly affecting his life. I mean, it was affecting his personal life, his family relationships, his friendships, his ability to, you know, have self-confidence. He was further isolating. You know, he just kind of, it affected him on so many levels, especially for someone that was used to loving life and enjoying life and traveling and all that. By the time he came to me, that was pretty much gone.
Cough lawyer is in the courtroom. I saw him this morning.
Oh,
He
I think I
doesn't
was
seem to be
mistaken.
coughing
Maybe
as
you
much
saw
today.
Terry first
But
in
we're
May of
also listening to the
2017.
audio of the video of the. We're listening to the
how much,
video deposition.
How significant it, or I guess what I'm trying to get at is how can a person with high average or superior scores on testing still be impaired by a traumatic brain injury and suffer persistent concussive symptoms? Can you explain that, please?
Sure. I think what you're referring to is, I know that he completed a neuropsychological evaluation. I believe maybe at the VA hospital. Does that sound right? I don't want to misspeak.
Yes, maybe that's it.
Yeah, and in fact, I know Dr. Madsen was there when I was doing my residency at the VA.
There was
she's a wonderful neuropsychologist.
a discussion of that yesterday, and there is more discussion, I'm sure, on cross today.
When we deal with concussion
But yes, there
patients,
was.
okay, we have seen that, especially if they are intelligent or if they are at a higher level of functioning, which, you know, I would assume he would be, considering his education level, him being an optometric physician. You would assume that he's
I'll get to
functioning
this
rather
when we
well.
have a bit of a pause.
So with these patients, often the neuropsychological, like paper pencil tests that they can do are not sensitive enough to pick up some of the challenges that he's having. You know, in one sense, maybe his functioning was up here prior to the accident, and then now he's down here. But if everyone else is down here, you know, he'll be kind of in the average, maybe high average range. But, you know, we could assume maybe superior range prior to that. And so we often see cases where neuropsych testing or neurocognitive testing can be totally normal, but the patient can still have a concussion. And in fact, one of the best.
Oh, this is a part that's been edited out. So I'm going to answer questions while we're here.
The blank out is intentional.
Joanne, if ski resorts carry no responsibility for injuries, how can they press charges on Gwyneth Paltrow? They're not pressing charges, just to be particular. This is a civil suit, so this is a civil lawsuit between the two parties. They are alleging negligence, that she had a duty, that the duty was to the downhill skier, that she breached that duty by running into the downhill skier, that breach of duty caused injury to the plaintiff, Terry Sanderson, and that he was damaged as a result of it. So that's what they're alleging. But no, the ski resort is not at risk. The ski resort, though, can also be responsible for negligence if something goes wrong with a run or a chairlift in a way that they did it negligently. So this is a negligence case. It is civil. So there is a plaintiff and a defendant, not a prosecutor and a defendant. And they are suing for money damages. And that is where we're at. It's very interesting, the fact that the plaintiff is in court, and I know he said that this testimony about his injuries was difficult, but that Paltrow was there the whole time. I wonder what the jury will think of that.
Entitled, excuse me.
Molly, I think this is fair too. Molly said, I'm skeptical that the injuries would have been as severe if he was the one uphill from Gwyneth Paltrow.
We'll be
Though I
discussing
wonder
this
if
right
he
now,
hit
in the
her
next
helmet, if
minute
he
or
still
two.
would have cracked his
Jane.
ribs and still would have hit his head, even if he hit her. What I am skeptical about is the defense attorney, Paltrow's attorney, said that it was a very slow collision where they kind of hit each other and then like fell to the side, and the slowness of the collision does not make sense to me, but we'll have to see. So we moved to Utah after all. Well, we do coffee and cursey words on Thursday
Apologize
anyway.
for the difficulty and interruptions.
Thank you,
In the
Your
old
Honor.
days, we used to just read this to you, so this is much preferable.
Well, yes, we did want to see the good doctor, and they probably wouldn't have been able
Guess
to
the old
pronounce
days wasn't that long ago, was it?
her name very well. We're visiting Utah. We haven't moved in. This is only supposed to be an 8-day trial. We're not going to cover every single witness of it. We've only had 4 witnesses from the plaintiff. The plaintiff said they would be done with their case on Friday. The Paltrow, the defense, said they have 7 witnesses lined up already for Monday. Donna Shepard, Emily, I know it's off topic, but did you hear about the tornado in LA yesterday? I did, and I saw video footage of it. Wild stuff. Though when I lived in Southern California, I saw water spouts on occasion. I mean, swirly air can happen.
5% through. Is it, do you want to take a break or just keep going?
Keep going. It's been 40 minutes, counsel.
We can keep going right now? Okay.
The
keep
jury's
going.
barely been there. Just finish the fucking video. Ah! So Sue, I didn't get to finish this. So if the jury is 70-30, the person who's 30% at fault can recover 30% of the damages.
I'd like to talk about, in particular,
The person 70% at
Terry
fault
Sanderson's case.
gets charged for those damages.
It's my understanding you recommended that he travel. Why did you recommend that he
Todd,
travel?
we'll talk about that. Darn it. We'll talk about that in a minute.
So when he completed the boot camp with us, part of what he said that he missed and part of what gave him so much joy was traveling. You know, and as someone like Terry, who I actually really love to travel, right? In fact, as you know, I'm heading to Europe for work to present at some conferences internationally. I encouraged him to try to get back to doing things that he loved. I did caution him that he should not travel alone because of his memory issues and other problem-solving issues. But I did strongly recommend that he try to get back to doing things that he enjoys, and that included travel.
So can you, how would you describe the treatment then that he's received at your clinic?
So the treatment was very intensive, very targeted and focused to those particular regions, right, that we saw. And it is a boot camp. I mean, he was here with us for a full week.
It's intensive
He,
rehab.
participated in no less than
I don't know if I like the
32
Google
hours
Docs
of
updates.
therapy, and then the rest of those hours were filled with before and after imaging, right? Yeah, he was very compliant, but every day he had at least 1 hour of cognitive therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, neuromuscular therapy, vision, vestibular, and even psychotherapy, right? I mean, you cannot extricate some of the,
Betsy, we have
the
the best chat
depression
on the
and
internet.
anxiety
do.
aspects because he suffered from that beforehand. So we made sure he got some of that here in treatment as well.
Hey, Lawrence, if I may, I'm just noting
He's having
that if she has to
difficulty.
leave at 3:30, there's only an hour left, and I have an outline of like 10 pages. So
He's having neurological difficulties,
it's
so
gonna
he
be
has not been
tough for me to
traveling.
get
He might
through,
not feel
without much,
safe or
uh,
comfortable doing it.
the rest of the time here.
But we know that
Okay,
his life
we'll
has
try to
changed
go quickly,
substantially because of this.
Thank you, Doctor. What are some of the recommendations that you've made after this treatment?
Try
for
to get back
Terry
to the things you like
in
doing.
terms of his regular life or outside of the clinic?
I believe I listed my recommendations on a report that was on actually Exhibit 33, if you want to share that one. I have some recommendations on there. I
Some
don't
of that-
have it right
some
in
of that
front
noise
me,
is
but, you know,
I'll
Our
share
yard.
it real quickly.
okay,
It's not in color. Do you
that's
remember-
okay. Just go all the way up to the top.
Amy said, question, what is the difference between being a bad skier and negligence in this case? Negligence is having a duty and breaching that duty. So a
Going-
duty to ski safely. They allege
Okay,
that
so right
Gwyneth was
here,
skiing out of
actually,
control.
If you go down.
So even if you are a
so,
bad skier, you can't ski out of control.
These are some recommendations.
and
I recommend
It is
some
on you
massage
not to crash into
therapy.
people.
I
And if you
know that
can't
he
do
was
that, you shouldn't be
seeing
on the hills.
um,
That said, a lot of the time,
a
there are
therapist as
ski
well,
collisions
and
that are
I
slow
recommended
and
that he continue to do that.
you never end up
Um,
in trial
if
like this.
you scroll
But
up again.
When somebody's injured, cases do go to
keep going
trial.
up. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Go down right here. So post-epic treatment report.
All right. I wonder if that case, the Brooks case, is going to settle, but I also don't want to get us too off topic. It's why we generally stick to the case that we're in on the chat, because otherwise I will get distracted and we will never finish what we're doing. Why would Gwyneth Paltrow go to trial if she is lying? Surely she would have settled outside of court. It makes no sense if she is really at fault. DW, I think that, and DW I hope stands for Darkwing Duck, because when there's trouble you call DW. But anyway, I think the jury will ask the same question. Like, if she's not telling the truth, why would she put herself through this? I know there's plenty of people that dislike Gwyneth, and the jury might see that too. Be like, why would she put
February
herself through all of
26,
this?
2016?
I think it's a fair question.
Yes, it is.
And
That
would he be
resulted in a
suing her if she
TBI?
weren't a celebrity?
It resulted in what we consider a TBI. Yes, a traumatic brain injury.
Judge, just 1 second. We're going to try to find out if we skipped ahead too far.
Page 51, line 12. She just read 11.
Broncos said just got back. Is Sanderson going to be taking a stand today? That's what his lawyer said at the end of the day yesterday. They've been going slower than they expect. So when he gave the witness list at the end of the day yesterday, he had quite a number of them. So perhaps Gwyneth just believes she wasn't at fault and actually was. That's possible too. That's possible too. So the jury's going to have to decide. The jury might be like, y'all are at fault. And if they go, y'all are at fault, then that's where we're at. Again, in Utah, this is a comparative negligence. So
Oh, I'm sorry.
Paltrow's negligence compared to Sanderson's negligence. And the jury has to come to a verdict by
Reporting
3/4
balance
of the
issues,
jurors.
Dizziness, mental fog, feeling slowed down, difficulty remembering.
So not
irritability.
unanimous.
And so I recommended, psychotherapy. I recommended some additional cognitive and occupational therapy, as well as neuromuscular therapy.
Ashley, I plan to be here most of the day today.
Okay, these are pages 6
If we're
and
doing more
7
medical
of the
after lunch, I
87
might take a
pages of
longer
Exhibit
lunch to get some
33.
work done. I have some
Okay.
things that need to get done in the Lawnard
Um,
shop, and I have a stream tonight with Dr. B.
So is it
So,
your opinion that Dr. Sanderson had a concussion?
And then we'll be back.
On or about February 26, 2016?
Yes, it is.
oh, Jennifer Z, I caught Darkwing Duck
And
the
that
first time
resulted in
around
a
and the second
TBI?
time around.
It resulted
Don't
in
even get
what
me
we
started on the
consider an
Animaniacs.
NTBI, yes, a traumatic brain injury.
Because we're in. Damn it. Damn it.
And the cause, he self-reported that his injuries were caused by a ski collision on February 26,
lost. I'm
2016.
lost now. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to try to answer questions over whatever they're doing. From one Cynthia to another high five on Tom Brady. So the jury needn't be unanimous, correct? Is that a Utah thing or because it's civil? That is a civil thing. Each jurisdiction has their own rules, what that looks
So
like, but in
he
civil cases, they
reported that
generally don't need to be
functioning
unanimous.
Fine.
Leo, I started yelling at Gwyneth Paltrow's lead counsel early on day one when he was looking at the other attorney saying, can we just limit the interruptions? No, you're arguing and you're freaking opening. No one's limiting their interruptions of you. Stop it. Give a proper opening. I find him challenging. I find him challenging and patronizing. And that's going to be difficult because the thing Gwyneth Paltrow needs her attorney to not do is annoy the jury. Zed said, if it wasn't her, would this case even exist? I've been asked this in multiple interviews that I've done about this case. I don't think we would hear about it, but these types of cases go to trial all the time, not just in ski crashes, but in vehicle collisions. So I worked for civil judges in a couple of different ways, both during law school and after. And like car accident cases were really common. People get hurt, property gets damaged, and you just need to sort out who's at fault, especially if one of the insurance companies wants to fight it. That's not the case here. But these types of cases where who's at fault for an accident do go to trial. We would never hear about it, but this is pretty normal operation of a courtroom. We just truly wouldn't know about it. When you really can't decide who's at fault. It's not, these stories aren't even freaking close. They're completely divergent. Finding Anne-Marie, is tonight's stream for Patreon members only? Yes. 4 members only at Law Nerds Unite. And that's because it is an extra stream for hitting a member milestone over there. So we have a few differences in the memberships between YouTube and Patreon. The I Have Thoughts podcast is one of them. But the members only podcasts go to everybody, or the members only videos go to everybody. The monthly members only go to everybody. This is a special one that was set aside as a milestone over there. Question, with both parties being able to call each other, can they be called by each side? Example, defense and plaintiff can call Gwyneth Paltrow, both sides do a direct and cross, or whoever calls first. It depends on this judge, but generally you would have the ability to call them twice if need be.
In the middle of all that, but
In
I
Depp
just
v.
want-
Heard, there was a stipulation that Depp wouldn't be called by Heard and Heard would not be called by Depp, that they would call their own parties. That does not exist in this case.
I want to register for the record that we object.
Kira said she is so wealthy, why wouldn't she have paid this to go away before going to court and having to be dealing with this publicly? I don't know. They probably couldn't come to an agreement. It's like,
How have
no,
your opinions,
screw you.
changed
I didn't
since,
do anything. You're doing this
your
because I'm a celebrity.
deposition? Have they,
Let's go to trial.
how-
Prove it.
How have any of your opinions changed about Terry since his deposition?
I don't think they've changed at all. If anything, I fear that.
That's the part right there that you should pause it.
Oh, gosh.
And you can pop ahead to line 17.
Dr. B needs a dental tube channel. I don't think he wants to do that, but he'll answer some questions about that today. Can prosecution request the yeeted testimony? The plaintiff's, let me back up. The testimony here has been agreed to by both sides.
So it's including,
So,
two neuropsychologists,
no, you can't
Dr.
bring in
Fong,
other
and
testimony, and
you,
it's plaintiff and
you've
defense in
reviewed
this
the
case.
defense's,
Just to be helpful.
handpicked, including two neuropsychologists, Old and Dr. Askenazi. What are your responses to their opinions, or at least in their reports?
Oh, I mean, they have a lot of opinions in their reports. But again, I want to just emphasize that there's a really big difference between going over someone's chart in another state across the world and actually having that patient in front of me, you know, dejected, crying, helping them. You know, I think it's really easy to criticize someone from that far away, and it's a totally different beast when you're in the trenches with that patient trying to get them out. They have a lot of opinions that I think show that they are not concussion experts, that they are not traumatic brain injury
This is the
specific,
battle of the
persistent
experts.
Concussion experts, and I think if I'm being totally honest, a lot of their opinions are easily refutable, if not most of their opinions are easily refutable by just going online and looking at, you know, the CDC recommendations for clinicians and how to treat concussions.
Okay.
With all due respect, but you know, I mean, they do not. I just do not think that they're seeing him as an individual and as someone that is really suffering and has suffered and has done everything in their power to try to get better.
Do you have, or what examples do you have
That's gonna take a little longer.
of their opinions that you disagree with?
Yes, the plaintiff
If you
can
recall
call
right
Gwyneth
now.
Paltrow.
Yeah, well, one of the big ones.
I
is that
expect
they
they'll
don't
do
think
that
he
tomorrow
has
based on their
post-concussion
statements to the
symptoms.
court.
I don't know if they just don't believe it exists or whatnot, but you know, I mean, it's interesting because I believe all the experts agree, defense and plaintiffs, that he had a concussion. Where we're dividing is whether or not that turned into post-concussion symptoms. And again, it's just they may not be aware of, you know, the litany of research that confirms that post-concussion symptoms are real and persistent post-concussion symptoms are real, despite normal findings on neuropsychological assessment. A lot of their attacks seem to want to place a lot of the blame and the burden on prior diagnoses, like his prior anxiety or his prior depression or his prior headaches or his prior findings. But the important thing to note is that this is a man who at that age of his late 60s was very, very active, was very high functioning, you know, was someone that was volunteering out in the community all the time. He organized social gatherings for people. I mean, this is someone
Right,
that
so they're
was
like, his
engaged to
normal
be married,
is
you know,
different.
and now has lost even that prospect. I mean, this has completely changed his life, physically, emotionally, biologically, psychologically, and socially. We call it a biopsychosocial model, right? And he has been affected in all those domains. And like I said, a litany of literature will back this up, that, you know, he's not one of the miserable minority. And in fact, so much research will bear out that actually now a majority of patients are still reporting symptoms past the 3 to 6 to 5 year mark.
Concussions can impact you
Lawrence,
for the rest of your life,
Done, 'cause
even
Yes,
if they're
I'm
categorized as
on
mild.
the last page.
But this attorney just being
Um,
like, "Are you almost done?" It just
The
his
defense
whole
has
demeanor
mentioned repeatedly
just
normal
ruffles me the
pressure
wrong.
cephalus or NPH. How does that factor into Terry Sanderson's condition from this post-concussive syndrome?
Well, you know, so normal pressure hydrocephaly is just kind of, it's an abnormal buildup or an increase in cerebral spinal fluid in the brain's ventricles, right? And so it was noted, I know in 2009, the interesting thing to note was that he was asymptomatic with this, right? So people can have this and not even know that they have it until, you know, you get a brain scan or something. So I think he was identified as having that, but I believe that the doctor who, or the radiologist or the doctor who ordered that noted that he was not symptomatic at the time. But one of the things that I want to point out is
That's
that
interesting.
that was one of the risk factors for him having post-concussion symptoms. That was one of the risk factors for him having a complicated recovery, or, you know, a kind of a complex pathophysiological process here that I don't think is being appreciated by the defense's experts. You know, it kind of almost made him more fragile and more susceptible to these issues. You know, I just want to point out, they're not mutually exclusive. He can't, it's not that, oh, he NPH and that's all he has. If you have NPH, imagine, and then you have a significant hit to the head, when you're flopped onto your face, you know, broken ribs and everything, that amount of force is going to cause trauma to any brain, let alone a brain that already has NPH as a diagnosis. So they're not mutually exclusive. If anything, they compound each other.
And that's, I think, the point of her testimony.
What are the American Psychological Association Code of Ethics directives on doing exams, according to your understanding, that are involved with these defense experts?
Can you clarify your question? I'm not sure what you're asking.
Are you familiar with the Code of Ethics?
Yes, of course. The American Psychological Association Code of Ethics, of course, yes.
What do they say about doing exams?
You mean like?
Oh, Fred.
Yeah, can you?
There's an objection to vague.
Are they supposed to do them, psychologists, when they're doing exams, such as for Dr. Terry Sanderson?
You mean?
Oh, well, let's skip that. We're
what are
running
you
short
asking?
on time. Are there any other, what other criticisms do you have of the neuropsychological
This is the battle of the experts.
For the defense? Any other before we leave?
I'm sure I do have some, but I'm sure that James will bring them up.
Okay.
Oh, Fred is
That's
fretting.
all I
Fred
have
was
for
fretting
right
this
now.
morning,
Thank
too.
you, Dr. Fong.
Okay, great. Let's get right to it. Dr. Fong, I'm going
This
to be
attorney.
kind of quick and curt, but it's not because I want to be a jerk. It's just because I have a job to do. And
He's like, no, when I want to be a jerk, I will be.
We're getting to the truth here the best that this process can do.
Sure.
So if you wouldn't mind just making sure you really listen to my questions, answer them, especially if it's just a yes or no. It'll help if you just give me that, and then you'll have a chance to explain yourself with some of the other questions as well. So I haven't heard you explain why you can say that Terry's findings are clearly connected to a post-concussive syndrome as against developing Alzheimer's, or he has multiple things listed here. I could go through them, but the point, I think.
I do. And
Objection, misstates facts in evidence.
I'm using my 18 years of expertise as a clinical neuropsychologist and my expertise treating concussions using self-report measures, clinical interviews, using
this lawyer's demeanor is
different in-house assessments to determine that. The reason I said that I believe it came from that accident was because,
off-putting.
again, I'm using his report that prior to that accident, he was functioning fine. After this accident and the trauma and, all the other physical trauma that happened to him, now he's having these issues. So I just want to clarify.
Okay, well, one of my questions, though, is that you didn't do anything
ask
to
one at a
assess
time, and it'll be
whether there
easier.
might be past medical history that could explain his findings during your evaluation, aside from received self-report
Oh,
from him.
this
Is that right?
Is the Clark Kent lawyer?
Yes, correct. But
I like him.
Okay, so that's, again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be curt. I'm just trying to be quick here.
Let her,
So
counsel.
no, Lawrence, you gave me no time, so I'm trying to be quick here. Okay,
Oh, this
and
attorney
she'll
is
be able to
annoyed.
Explain herself. So
Not annoyed with
Dr.
her, but
Fong,
annoyed
just
with
to
the
be
other
clear,
attorney.
You did not ask for prior medical records and go through those.
I'm going to pause this real quick.
Uh,
Here's the annoyance, and this happens a lot in civil cases. This doctor has a set amount of time for deposition, and that is it. This amount of time. So when they finally end their questions. That's the only time they get to do the cross-examination. And so he's like, hey, you ate up all of the time. We only have this much time left to do cross-examination. This is an important witness, and you've left me no time. So he's annoyed with the other attorney for eating up the time and not letting the depo finish. We saw this come up a lot in Dep v. Heard when it was a push of, we have to sit for another deposition. They ate up all the time and we had no cross-examination.
To see what there might be in Mr. Sanderson's past, correct?
That is not correct.
How is that not correct? At your deposition, you made it really clear that you did not look at prior medical records.
Well, but I did not go off nothing for that. I asked him about
I didn't,
medical history.
Dr. Fong, I did not say that you went off nothing. I very specifically asked
So that's why
whether
he's annoyed.
you went through medical records.
He's not wrong being
to
annoyed.
look for prior history that might have some influence on Mr. Sanderson's findings in your clinic. And the answer is that you did not do that, correct?
I did not do that for Terry, but I don't do that for most patients that come to me. And so I need to just further correct you that most times when you go to the doctor, you don't come with a whole stack of medical records. You come to the doctor saying, hey, these are my symptoms. This is what's going on. This is what happened. Can you treat me? And so
Sure.
I just want to be very clear. I am not a forensic. I don't do this forensically. A lot of the defense experts, that's when they'll need all these medical records to make all these opinions. I'm a treating doctor. I come with the patient as they are. I'm provided medical records sometimes.
Right, but you did know when you treated Mr. Sanderson that he was in active litigation about exactly the sorts of things you were evaluating him for, and that your testimony, your opinions would be used in this case, did you not?
No, I did not, because there are some people that come in with attorneys
Because in
that
2017,
ever
he
ask me
hadn't
for an
filed
opinion at all. We have some people that come in without an attorney that through the course of the time get one, and then I have to testify. But I think unlike some of your defense experts, I'm a treating physician 95% of the time. I only do this when I have to in these cases.
Right, but I think you're misunderstanding what I'm getting at. I'm not saying you always testify. I'm saying you knew that your records would be, and your conclusions that you put in your records would be part of, likely be part of litigation, correct?
See, yes, and that word was likely. I don't know though, right? I mean, I treated him like I treat everybody else, because just because someone has an attorney doesn't mean that it's going to go to litigation. And I've been in this game long enough to know that.
No, of course, I know that as well. But because you knew that it was likely to go because it was in active litigation, why is it that you didn't ask for records so that you could be as precise as you can be, right? I mean, that you should be able to do some interrogation of the facts that you're gathering from him, so that you can feel confident about the results that you offer, correct?
No, and see, this is where I think you're trying to miscategorize me, James. I didn't treat Terry any differently than I treat any other patient that comes in my clinic, whether they're in litigation or not. All my job is to testify as to what I did with him, the treatment that I had with him, and I did just as well with Terry's information that I do with the 18 patients that I have outside my door right now. So in the cases where there's
literally 18 patients sitting outside your door right now?
I will see them, but I don't think you fully appreciate how busy my clinical practice is.
That's
I don't
the
think
point,
you fully
and that's
appreciate
fair.
how many patients there are with post-concussion symptoms. I mean, of all the traumatic brain injuries that occur, 90% of them are MTBIs or concussions. So I am very, very busy. I do not have time to pore over every single medical record. I take the patient as they come. If they provide me with some, that's fantastic. But my job is to get to work, get this patient better, and to move forward from that point.
And that's different from a treating doctor than a doctor just hired as a doco review.
That you, at the time of your evaluation of Mr. Sanderson, had not reviewed or were not aware of multiple aspects of his prior history that could be relevant to your findings.
She's like, it's not relevant to my treatment, though.
I believe the only thing I didn't know about at the time was the NPH diagnosis. I already knew about the migraine history in the depot. I already knew about the past anxiety and the past depression.
Doctor, we're going to have to go to your deposition, I guess. I think there
This
are
is
multiple
the second
places where
deposition. This
you
is from
acknowledge
March
that you didn't know,
14th, 2023.
some of these things. I don't know if you have the transcript available. I'm happy to go through these, but
Yeah.
it's going to take
It's
a while.
weird when they
and I
say
don't
it like a
have
threat.
time, so,
I guess we're going to have to go to your depot
I
then.
don't want to, you know,
It's like
I
a
don't want
scolding
to,
parent.
I don't think you want to misspeak either, you know.
No.
What I can say is that, you know, nothing's perfect. Maybe I missed one or two things here and there, but overall, you know, I assessed someone that was struggling, that listed his symptoms, and we went from there.
Okay, so let's just go through a couple of these things. You were unaware at the time of your evaluation that he'd had 2 neuropsychological evaluations before your evaluation, right? In March 2016 and May 2017. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you also were unaware of the 2009 MRI that he had underwent prior to your evaluation.
Yes, which I stated, yes.
Right. And
She's like, per my last email. As I said.
you were unaware, let's see. of
You
his
can hear
vision
them
and
crossing
hearing
off their
problems?
questions. That's
Are you
funny.
saying now that you were aware?
No, in fact, no, I wasn't aware of his vision and hearing problems at the time. He did not report those to me.
Right.
He did
Okay. That's all I
report-
need.
Uh-huh.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
Were you aware that Mr. Sanderson reported to his primary care provider a few weeks before the collision that he felt like, quote, he was getting old all of a sudden?
I don't know if using that against him
Maybe
is
not
going
in
to
those specific words.
have the impact they think it
Okay.
has. If anyone on this jury is
you
over the
probably
age of
didn't know
like
anything
40,
about that,
they're
right? 'Cause you
going
didn't look at
to
records.
relate
No,
to that
again,
statement, I would think.
What I had was his self-report to me
I
of
do.
what he was
I'm like,
struggling
yeah,
with.
I
And I just want to
understand
point out that the relevance of
how he may be
this
feeling.
is to a treating doctor is not that relevant. I wanted to treat him who he was right here. The fact that he had 2 prior neuropsychological assessments, how would that change my treatment of him, right? Because all I'm saying is he's coming to me with these symptoms. You know, I just want to treat from here on out. I think
Right.
what you're-
No, I get that. You've explained that multiple times. I get that. I'm saying it's relevant because there are experts on the plaintiff side, not just the defense side, that say these prior issues are relevant because the results might be influenced by those prior issues, and you didn't know about them.
But I'm not
You get
saying
that
that
point?
they're,
I think she was.
can I finish? I'm not
I
saying
think
that
she was
they're relevant.
overemphasizing
What I'm
the
saying
point.
is, so I knew about the migraines, I knew about some of the psych issues, and what I'm assessing for, James, is these risk factors that set him up to be even more complicated, right? But that still doesn't change how I treated him. So what you are pointing out to me, though, are definitely things that
It's true. I don't ski anymore.
make him more fragile, that make him more susceptible to having
too fragile.
more issues
too
after this
fragile.
violent injury that he had, you know? So
I would
um,
Sure,
operate
but
ski.
on that point of violent injury, Dr. Fong,
I would
you
sit
didn't do
in a
anything
ski
but
lodge
just
and
receive
drink.
his report
I would do
about
that.
what the collision was, correct?
oh yes, that is correct. I
And
received.
there are multiple.
My mom
And are
still
you
skis.
aware that there are multiple various fact witnesses that contradict his account?
You know, that's not for me to determine, and I'm not an attorney, but all I know is that, you know, this was a significant injury where he lost some consciousness, and he had several broken ribs as well. I mean, this wasn't just a light tap.
Yeah, well,
And I
Dr.
think-
Fong, but some of those facts are in dispute, including whether he lost consciousness, and you're not aware of that dispute, are you?
Well, the dispute, honestly, James, again, if your experts could just look at the CDC map.
It's not experts, Dr. Fong, it's the fact witnesses, people that were there that
Oh,
say he
boy.
did not lose
Okay.
consciousness.
Well, but
So-
what I want to point out, James, is that whether he did or did not lose consciousness
James.
shouldn't be debated, because actually 90+% of concussions don't lose consciousness at all. So I think that's kind of a red herring, honestly, you know? So if if you knew and if your
I like how
defense
she stands her
experts and
ground.
anyone else knew that, it's a red herring. You don't have to lose consciousness to have a concussion.
But you said it was one of your factors, though.
90% of concussions do not have a loss of
Oh,
consciousness.
but you said you
So-
relied on it, though, is the
That's
thing.
not why I'm bringing this up.
You
Dr.
brought it
Fong.
up.
I'm bringing it up to make sure the jury knows the facts, that you were not aware of any of the various claims about how this injury occurred at the time of your evaluation. Is that correct?
That may be, but now that I do know, it does not change my opinion, nor did it change how we treated him, nor does it change that he's still struggling with some of these issues and still needs help.
A
Okay.
good way to get to this is to ask you whether there was anyone prior.
I like how they've made it
your
clear when there's
evaluation,
edits.
Mr.
I think that's
Sanderson,
appropriate.
that diagnosed him with post-concussive symptoms or syndrome. Are you aware of anyone?
You know, I don't know that, but it just stands to reason that if he had a concussion.
But James, it's
And he was
obvious.
still struggling with those issues, that right there at that point, it becomes PCS or post-concussion symptoms.
Right, but what I'm trying to get at is that it seems to me that you haven't done anything to scientifically rule out the possibility that prior medical issues are the cause of his abnormalities,
I don't have
as
to,
opposed to the concussion.
but see,
Then
that's
just say
what you're
that.
not understanding. I don't have to rule those things out.
Then just say
They
that.
can be part and parcel. You can have NPH, you can have a migraine, you can have anxiety and depression, and that makes you at much higher risk to have post-concussion symptoms. They're not extricable from each other, you know? I think that, you know, in my last deposition, I quoted a study that had come out in that year, 2017, that actually showed that 72% of concussion patients 5 years later are still having symptoms. There's a study done by Dr. Bigler that same year that showed that only 27% of their cohort of their patients, only 27% met full recovery. That's, you know, 73% of patients that are not recovering. So again, the data is against you really, because these patients are not recovering like we think they are, and they're still needing help. And the problem is, the longer this goes, the symptoms start to evolve. That's the whole purpose of the study, is that at 5-year mark, and he's way past his 5-year mark now, these symptoms become psychological. They become inextricable from the actual concussion itself. And that is where the research is leading. And if you were a concussion specialist, you would
Which you're
recognize
clearly
that.
not, James.
PCS is what happens when you have a patient that has had a concussion and is still having
I
those
like a
symptoms.
feisty
And you're
expert
right. The anxiety,
most
the
of the time.
depression, the NPH, the migraines, they all contribute, but they are not exclusive. They are all part of this problem.
Right, Fong.
Jules, exactly.
Even plaintiff's experts, including Dr. Boehm, who I deposed yesterday, who's a neurologist for the plaintiff, he says that most patients that have had a concussion, they do not go on to have post-concussive syndrome. In fact, he says it's 5% or less, I believe, is his.
She's like, that's not what the
number
literature
for
says.
What?
Look, her
of
face
the
says that's not
percentage
what the
of
literature
patients
says.
that have a concussion that have persisting symptoms. So do you disagree with that claim?
I do, and I respect neurologists. I don't know who Dr. Bain is, but that was old data.
It's
That was data
Bain.
coming out of like 2003.
We have Bain and
If you look at data
Schwartzy.
coming from 2017
characters.
forward, the number ranges from 27% to like 87% now that have these persistent issues. So I do respectfully disagree, but I do have to say that this is all I do all day, every day, is concussion and post-concussion. But that is where the data shows. That's
But
what
the
data
patient,
shows now.
also the patient
But
subset that
nobody
you see
before
are
you-
people who are still
nobody
struggling.
before
So
you
you're going to
talked
see a
about
higher percentage of
post-concussive
post-concussive
syndrome.
patients
PCS.
because that's who seeks out
Well,
your treatment.
I mean, all I can tell you is that
Yes, and
I'm a
Bueller.
PCS expert, right? My clinic hears about PCS. I don't need another doctor to diagnose with PCS for me to be able to diagnose him with PCS. Does that make sense?
But you just said that you didn't diagnose him with PCS. That's what I'm not getting, doctor. You're saying you don't diagnose him, but then you're saying that you did, and I can't understand what I'm missing.
I don't understand what you're missing either. Terry had PCS. I have no problem saying that I would diagnose him with PCS.
There's a
just
lot of
based
papers
on
here.
my
Maybe you got
interactions with
confused,
him,
counsel.
the
You're not an
clinical interview,
expert.
the self-report measures, the assessments. That is what I use. The reason why I would diagnose him with PCS, James, is because by the time
Being
he
an
came
expert's
to
not
me,
easy.
it had been almost a year and a half post his concussion.
I like her rings.
Per his report, prior to the concussion, he was asymptomatic. He was living his best life. He didn't have a lot of these symptoms. He did have, of course, the premorbid things that we talked about. But by the time he came to me 18 months
She's like,
later, I
"I'm
just want to
going
make
to
sure that this
finish."
is clear. By the time he came to me 18 months later, with the constellation of symptoms that he reported, I diagnosed him with PCS. But I think, your job, James, and I think you're doing it relatively, you're trying to do it relatively well, is trying to,
Well, don't.
say that
You're trying to
how do you know
convolute
it's
it.
not just aging? How do you
That's
know it's
funny.
not just this? How do you know it's not just this? Because you're ignoring the big event that catalyzed all this, that started all
You're
this.
ignoring the point.
Dr. Fong, I'm not.
Ew,
It-
ew,
it-
don't yell back at her.
I have
Counsel.
an understanding from other experts, including experts on plaintiff's side, that the vast majority of concussions are treated in a short period of time. It's totally possible, is it not, just I want a clear answer on this, is it not possible that Mr. Sanderson had a concussion, the concussion symptoms resolved, and then he's continued to have other problems that you treated him for that were not concussion related? Is that not possible?
I mean, anything's possible. It is not probable. It is not
That's
probable.
fair.
Because I think you are completely ignoring the fact that he had these prior issues, which makes him more fragile and significantly more at risk for these issues.
Yeah, but Dr.
I mean,
Fong,
and
you haven't
can I
even
finish?
reviewed.
Can-
Sure.
Okay, can I finish? And they're not mutually exclusive. He can have these issues and have a concussion. And sure, I mean, at this point,
I understand that, Dr. Fong. I understand that. You've made that clear. What I'm saying is you didn't do
The
any
reason he's
work
annoyed
aside from
is
getting
because
a
she wants to
self-report
answer what she
report
wants
from
to
Mr.
answer.
Sanderson, who you knew was litigating these claims.
She didn't know that.
You did not
So she's
do
going to take
anything
issue with
to
that. You're going
figure
to lose
out
the rest
what
of your answer,
his history
James.
was from the time he had
James.
the concussion to the time that you treated him.
She's like, nah.
That's correct. Other than self-report from him, you didn't do anything to
This is
assess
his
what had
point.
happened to him, correct?
that is what I do with all my patients, James.
It's a
I know,
yes
but
or
that
a
doesn't
no,
matter if you've done it
ma'am.
with all your patients. I'm just pointing out that you don't have a strong foundation
It's a
in
self-report.
terms of the evidence to make a strong,
That's his
confident
point.
claim that his concussion symptoms didn't resolve.
James is getting
And then he
snappy.
developed
She's getting
other
snappy with him.
Symptoms or other prior symptoms.
He's gonna keep going 'cause
persisted
she's
that
not
were
answering.
Unrelated to the concussion. You
She
didn't
wants
do
to
anything
explain.
aside from speaking to him.
Every
to
expert does
assess
this.
that.
They want
Is
to
that
explain.
correct?
They don't want to just answer yes or no.
All I can say to that is that
I
I
need
Just
a
answer
yes
ye-
or-
just
I need
answer
a
yes or no.
on
There
that.
is
That's
no
a
yes or
pretty
no.
simple question.
Yes,
This
there
no,
is.
it's not a simple question.
It's a
And
self-report
here's how
or
I'm gonna
not.
answer it.
Ooh.
I have more time with him. I have more evidence. I have more treating
But
evidence
that's not
with
the
him.
point.
So I'm
Okay.
more apt
They're
and
both
have more
snappy.
ability to answer this question than any of the other experts
Oh,
on
that's
either
the
side
point. She's
because
like,
of the
I
amount
am
of
the
time
best
I spent
expert.
with him. So if you're going to criticize the amount of time I spent with him and the information I gathered,
She's reading into his
remember that I'm the
question.
one who actually spent that week of treatment with him and have had more contact with him. So of
Sure,
all the
but-
experts that, hold on, please. Of all the experts that are opining, I feel like I'm the best judge
Right.
of what happened to him in that
And
case.
so she feels
And
like
so,
just
again, you wanna
self-report's
criticize me, you can
derogatory
flip that
or
around and
minimizing.
say, well, your expert spent no time with him. So, again,
Sure.
it's back and forth, but all I can say, and I think you're gonna keep beating this horse down.
Well,
I
until you
gathered
answer
as
it.
much information from him as I did with all my other patients. I'm not gonna treat him
That's
specially
not
just because he has
the
an
question.
attorney. He came to me with these problems, I treated him with these problems, and he's, he did get better in a lot of areas. He's still struggling, and that's what
Experts-
the focus needs to be. Is he is
He's
still
the lawyer. You don't get to
struggling.
tell him what the
He's
focus
done
needs to be,
everything
though.
He can to get help, but he needs
He
more
still has to
help.
ask his questions, though.
Sure, but
Doctor.
Dr. Fong, while it's true that you have spent a lot of time with him,
She does
it's
not
also
like
true
her
that his
position
primary
being
care providers,
challenged.
for example, spent more time
Most
with
experts
him
don't.
than you did, right? Over many years. Is that not true? I mean, if someone treated him for decades, they have more experience with him than you do in your boot camp, correct?
Well,
Objection, assumes facts, not evidence.
yeah.
Please
No, no,
just
no.
give me a yes or no. That's a simple question.
Objection,
Hold on.
argumentative.
She's like,
If
you say
you're
it's
going to
simple.
someone as a general practitioner versus coming to me specifically for concussion, you're talking about apples versus oranges, James.
Right,
I
right,
have
but
more
I'm not-
experience with him with concussion. That's what this
Dr.
is about.
Fong, we
It's
have a
about
gift for
whether
you.
he has concussion symptoms, whether he's still injured.
And you
You know,
can,
I
you might
appreciate
enjoy
this
one
general
of these.
practitioner is wonderful. And
Dr.
we'll do all
Fong.
those things and we'll document that, yeah, you know, I'm not sure. I'm not going to assume what he documented. But I think that he spent more time with me as a treating doctor for concussion.
This
Think about
video
it,
depot got
32
way sassy.
hours. I don't know if that would add up to, you know, the amount of time that would be spent with him in a general practitioner. I get what you're trying to say, but again, he's not coming to me for general medical
She's a
problems.
treating
He's coming to me for his
Doctor, and
concussion.
she's advocating for her
I see.
client,
So let me.
but so is
I know I gotta
James.
finish up here. I have a lot more.
James, let me quick object.
There's nothing
lawsuit
quick.
started in
James is like,
January 2019.
No.
Her was in 2017.
oh, they're getting spicy.
Right, but you referred.
For those of you asking if
she
this
knew
is
he
normal
had
with
attorneys,
experts, yes, it is.
correct?
Experts don't like being challenged, and
Well,
most of them think
I'll
that they are
answer-
the best.
She's already answered that question. Okay, so
You have to do
That's
what a lot of these experts
problem
do.
with PCS, and you could do a lot of research on this. The reason why
James,
concussion is considered
the research.
most complex disease of the most complex organ
I'm not suggesting he
is
does.
because
It's just
the
funny.
symptoms can be so broad and can be attributed to other issues, which is why you need someone who has an expertise in this field to be able to diagnose that correctly or properly.
So in your CV, you say that you're currently authoring a
And
technical paper developing and outlining.
I
a
agree
standard
that
of care for
post-concussive
treatment of post-concussive,
syndrome
concussion symptoms. or
Symptoms
chronic concussion. So that
is
implies to
horrible.
me that standard of care is
and
being
she's
developed. it
offended
hasn't
that they're
actually been
minimizing
developed
it.
yet. Is that a fair interpretation?
And I understand her
Um,
annoyance. She's like, don't minimize something these people struggle with. She's like,
Persistent
this is what I deal with
post-concussion
every
symptom is
day,
a different
people's lives who are
animal from
devastated.
concussion. And so as far as setting, you know,
So she's
there
offended.
is no standard of care
Which makes sense.
with these really complicated concussions. All we're getting close to is that these cases are so difficult and so hard to manage that the decision of what imaging to use, what to do with these patients is done by clinician on a case-to-case basis. It's a problem that people are recognizing, and now we're adding that COVID long hauler is, you know, another one of these issues. It just bears to the fact that you can have so many different experts saying so many different things that, you know, it kind of leaves that part open. But for someone like me, who, like I said, I've treated 7,000 concussion
Right.
patients.
She's an
Not
advocate
much left
for this as well.
There's not much left to a ton of interpretation for me. I have probably seen more than, and again, I'm talking specifically about this persistent post-concussive class of people, right? I've probably seen more than most other clinicians in the
Michelle,
world.
same.
That's why I get referred to from physicians.
She's like,
and
I am the
clinicians
best in
all
my
over the
field. Stop
Okay,
minimizing what I
a couple real
do.
quick questions, and we'll be
Damn
done.
it.
But, as I understand from your deposition, you're not board certified. Is that correct?
It's not a requirement. Nope.
Right, but just to answer
But you're
the
not,
question,
though.
the
I
answer is no.
said no. I said no, but it's not.
Oh, sorry. Okay, got it. I didn't hear
She's
that.
like, and you're not going to
So,
minimize my qualifications
um,
either.
And you did not do a fellowship training, is that right?
No, that's absolutely not true. I did 2 years of fellowship in a postdoc while I was here at the hospital. So I actually trained
I'm
under
waiting for her
Dr.
to be
Jim
like,
Snyder,
I have
who
more
was
training
a
than you,
neuropsychologist.
James.
So I actually meet all the requirements to do it, but I'm just old enough really where it hasn't affected my career, or it's not something that I need to do.
Okay.
Newer psychologists do have to do that, but again, I meet all the requirements for that.
Fred,
I see. Well, I apologize because I didn't see any fellowship listed on your CV, so that's why I thought you talked about an internship at the VA, but that's
Yes.
separate
That's
from
separate.
your fellowship?
Yep. So after that, in order to meet the requirements to
He's
be
like,
certified, you
"But
have
it's
to
not on
spend
your
2
CV."
years working under a neuropsychologist as well.
Good Lord.
Which I did that right out of my, right after I left the VA hospital working with the veterans.
Okay, I see. And you actually have like a certificate, maybe it's on the wall behind you that says fellowship, I completed a fellowship in neuropsychology or whatever.
So I am kind of right in that mid phase where I kind of I'm grandfathered in under other under that fellowship requirement because again, back when I graduated, it was kind of a newer thing and not a lot of neuropsychologists needed to get it done. It's really more for this new generation coming out.
I sent
needed
Fred
to
with
do it.
Dr.
It
B.
hasn't affected my authority or my expertise in any way.
Okay, but it wasn't called a fellowship then, or was it called an internship? I'm just
No,
trying to get
He's
that
going
right.
to her
No,
not being
it was just
specific on her
postdoctoral
CV.
work, postdoctoral
Okay.
work, yeah, full-time
Got it.
under.
She
neuropsych-
is,
So
what, like
it wasn't
45,
called
46?
specifically like fellowship
No,
training.
it
Right,
wasn't,
okay.
no.
Got it. And your deposition, you reported that
so it's
Mr.
not
Sanderson
exactly
told
a
you,
fellowship.
I think the day of your deposition, that he had fallen, hit his head, and had this 45 minutes of lost
MD,
consciousness. Do you recall that?
PhD is a
I do
real
recall that
thing.
because I reread my deposition right before this.
And I guess you haven't evaluated him since then, so it's hard for you to say whether he has symptoms relating to that.
That's correct.
And do you know whether he saw any medical treatment for that?
Not that I'm aware, I didn't
I
ask,
left the
not
lip
that I'm
gloss.
aware.
I went in the other
Okay.
room.
Would you recommend treatment after an experience like that? An injury, I guess I
yeah.
should say.
Yeah, of course I would, I would.
We're going to get to a break here in a
Okay.
minute.
So maybe you answered this when Mr. Bueller was asking you questions, but it seems like the treatment that you provided you saw as successful, but you have since learned that Mr. Sanderson has gone downhill, was I think
Fred,
the term you used in your deposition.
Dr. B so graciously helped you not be in the office.
Why did the treatment not stuck? Or I'm not quite sure how to ask this question, but you get what I'm asking, right? That if
He was correct.
treated
She did
for
not
it
do
and
a
it went
fellowship
well,
in
why
the-
does he still have these symptoms?
She
and
was
maybe
using
they're
them
even worse now?
synonymously.
Yeah. So, and when I say successful, I don't mean 100% full recovery, right? I mean, he by successful, I mean that there are definitely some areas that improved, and even he reported some improved, symptoms. But I think one of the reasons
Melissa,
he wasn't done, right? We did a week with him.
Always.
I still had some issues that I noted there. I recommended some further treatment for him.
Philip.
But
Cheers to that.
it's a brain injury, I mean, it's,
She's like, "It's
and I only
bad."
get a week with them. Like I said, in some cases, especially in younger patients, they can get better pretty quickly and we never hear from them again and they're off. But, to be honest, Terry was already, I don't know, maybe he was in his 70s by the time he came to us. I'm not sure, maybe 70s, I don't know. But, older adults do tend to have a little bit of a harder time, there's not as much neuroplasticity. I mean, there could be a lot of reasons. I think some of the reasons too could be the premorbid issues he had, like the NPH and the prior migraine, and some of the things that, made his recovery harder and more complicated.
I think that's
I
the
think
answer
I'm-
he was looking for.
Yeah, I
with
think
that.
I'm done. Let me
There
just
are other
look at one
factors
more
that made
page, if
recovery
I may.
more
Is that okay?
difficult.
I'm sorry to take your time
Well,
here.
why don't we go on a break then?
Back on record, the time is 4:01.
Thank you, Dr. Fong. That'll be it.
That's it?
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Fong. Again, I apologize for, I could have treated you better, but it was sort of felt time crunched. I had a lot to get to. I didn't mean to interrupt a bunch, but thanks for being patient with me.
Thank you, James, and thanks for everyone to hearing me out
Thanks,
here.
James.
Yeah, appreciate it.
James was like, counsel didn't leave me a lot of time.
That completes Dr. Fong's testimony, and we'll take our recess now.
All right, we are at morning recess while the jury exits the room. James was trying to explain, look, this is what was going on. We're going to get to your questions in just a moment. Let's let the jury get out of the room. And while we're doing that, you know what I didn't do this morning? You know what I didn't do? Our intro, and I love it. Hey there, I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over 17 years, but this is not legal advice. This is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not. Let's get into it. Gwyneth Paltrow is already out of the courtroom. The attorneys are going to break, and we have gone back to the seal. There is something I need to tell y'all about before we head into questions. You know how much I love my Gerard Cosmetics, and Gerard Cosmetics is sponsoring today's stream. So thank you for that. 2 of my favorite items are now back in stock, so I'm letting you know about them. Both the Passion and Rose Hill Lippy that I love so much are back in stock. And the bestsellers are at a 50% discount. That's right. You can get your Holy Grails from Gerard Cosmetics at a 50% discount using code 9ISFINE. Why? Because Gerard Cosmetics is celebrating their 9-year anniversary. Cosmetics is such a difficult industry, and for an independent, woman-owned brand to survive through 2020 when so many other brands went by the wayside is a tremendous accomplishment. Celebrating 9 years is huge. So you can get your lippies, including Hair AF, pink frosting, the clean canvas eye base, the Share lip pencil that I wear all the time, and of course the other ones that are back in stock. So those are some of my holy grails, and we have a link to get to my holy grails if you just want to shop the things I love the most from Gerard Cosmetics. So thank you to Gerard Cosmetics for sponsoring our stream. Y'all always ask me what I'm wearing. There are some colors that I can't tell you about yet. Those are coming. But I do tell you that most of the time it is passion or pink frosting. And these are the ones that you will see whenever I put them. Let me grab passion. When I put them on, they have the light and they have a mirror. So if you are anywhere, concert, restaurant, karaoke club, drag show, wherever you're at, you can get that lippy on clearly and straight because you have your mirror and the light. I love them so much, and I hope that you do too. I also love supporting Jen's company and love how much support Jen has shown to the law nerd community. So enjoy all of it. The colors are beautiful. I love it. These are smooth glosses. They are not tacky glosses, and I love them. I wear them so much when I stream because they do not get tacky on my lips. So with all of that, enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. You can wear them everywhere. I wear them on stream, but I wear them out and about. The amount I get asked about these lip glosses is 10/10. I have been out at clubs where people are like, wait, what are you doing? Because they see the light and they're like, this is brilliant. Right. If you want to wear a lip gloss, you need a mirror and a light. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So thank you so much. Is the passion already gone? It just came back into stock. You've got our holy grails and you've got our link. And with that, you've got a 50% off discount. So if you've been wanting to try them, try them. Do you have an Emily lip gloss new color? There are things that may be coming. So with all of that, thank you so much to Gerard Cosmetics for sponsoring today's stream. Thank you, law nerds who love a lip gloss, for wearing it to all of your favorite places. We have to get to questions, so let's do that. Thank you again, Gerard Cosmetics. We raise our lip glosses in salute. Let's give a quick recap of where we're at with this trial. Are you ready? There's over 16,000 of you here. First, I challenge you. Is today the day we're going to hit 710,000 on the YouTube channel? Have you subscribed? If you haven't, go ahead and do that if you would like. This is what we do here. Also, law nerds, you know who's the #1 trial coverage on live trending right now? Us. We are the top channel covering this case. Us. Not network. Us. So thank you, Law Nerds, for making this the only place to watch trial coverage. With, well, only the best, your favorite, your favorite place to watch trial coverage is here, and I know it. So thank you so much for keeping us the top trial coverage in live trending. I appreciate you so much for that. With that, let's give a quick recap. Here we go. Here the fuck we go. Gwyneth Paltrow is being sued over a ski collision. She countersued the plaintiff, Terry Sanderson. Both of them say that the other one caused the crash. We have a question about some missing GoPro footage that was alluded to in opening, and we don't know an answer to yet. The plaintiff is going to testify this afternoon. Gwyneth Paltrow is going to be called by the plaintiff to testify tomorrow. In Utah, you have to find somebody less than 50% responsible for them to recover, which means if they are both equally responsible for the crash, if they both contributed equally, then there is no recovery for either of them. Contributory negligence. The jury has to find percentages. The jury does not have to be unanimous. They just have to be 3/4 of the way there. Everybody's saying that the other one caused the crash. Terry Sanderson is saying that he has had longstanding brain injury and impact from this crash. We still don't know who caused it. So with all of that, that is where we're at. We need to determine, was there a breach of duty? The duty in this case is to the downhill skier. So who was the downhill skier when this crash happened is the critical point for liability here. Then we get to damages. Did this crash cause damages to Terry Sanderson or to Gwyneth Paltrow? Gwyneth Paltrow is arguing damages differently. She's arguing that she had to stop her day skiing. There were damages. That's her damages. She was sore. She had some issues. She's only asking for $1. Sanderson is asking for over $3 million. That's what they said in opening. I know it's widely reported that he's just asking for $300,000. I don't know why. I don't know why that's being reported. What I saw in the opening statements, unless my brain transposed what they were saying, is that they were asking for over $3 million in damages. I don't think they'll get there. Also, for those of you having glitches, it's YouTube. There have been YouTube updates today. I am working on it. It is not our stream health. Our stream health looks good. So this is a YouTube issue. We are working on it. I am sorry. You are losing FPS. Stream is glitching. Our stream health looks good. So they are looking for attorney's fees. There are YouTube updates today. I will reach out to YouTube after this break and see what we can do. The chat line might be able to help, but I will reach out and see. But I think this is due to new updates. And new updates across YouTube. It's not only our stream. So this is a YouTube issue. We are working on it, but there's not much we can. Disney Mom asks, can you please explain the bingo cards? Yes. There is a very long backstory here, but it goes back to law school. I am not the only law student in law school that had, and this happened, I transferred law schools. This happened at both law schools I went to. There were bingo cards. I will tell the story about the bingo cards in depth another day because I've done that in the past. But when we joke about things not being on our bingo card, you know, bingo cards have the different numbers. In law school, bingo cards had things that happened in class. And so you would play bingo throughout class to stay engaged with class. Sometimes it's crankiness. Sometimes it's crankiness. So you will have bingo cards. We joke about the things on our bingo card. Some things in trial become predictable, like bring the jury. It's iconic. You can have it on your bingo card in the middle square. You get it every single day of the jury. So not being on my bingo card is something, but it's also, for me, that's where it comes from. It is also a really common phrase when something unexpected happens, kind of an idiom, if you will. Bree Cup, I am so sorry that this was your experience. Bree shared that her son fell out of a 2-story window when he was 2, had a TBI that caused delays in speech and fine motor. He's now 12 and completely caught up. That it must have been terrifying for you and your family. And I'm sure, well, your kiddo is fine. Those are things that weigh heavy on a parent. Can you share a little about what the members Q&A will be like tonight? Looking forward to it. Just joined Patreon this week. Aaron, without giving away the plot, it's me and Dr. B doing a Q&A together. So we will be streaming probably for 2 hours, if not a little bit more, and talking about all the things. We have done Q&A streams together before. This one is a Q&A stream just for our members over on Law Nerds Unite. Brianna said, send it to Daryl. Yes, absolutely. Send it to Daryl. Send it to Daryl. Send it to Daryl. Susan, thank you for the soup. Christina said educational requires change. If she was grandfathered in, it meant the education she had was enough to meet the fellow requirements and didn't have to do it. And that's fair too. Rihanna said neuropsych is a newer field. It was essentially a fellowship, just not named that yet. Also, VA only trains the best. Same with Dr. Curry. And the VA programs are quite good. My husband did not do a residency, did one residency with the VA, and the other one, they worked with the VA very closely in Westwood, but there are a lot of docs that come through the VA. The judge reduced it to 300K. I need to go look because they still asked for 3 million in the opening, which is after the judge had reduced it to 300 earlier. So I'm still confused why they were asking for 3 million in opening. We'll see what they can award. And again, they can get awarded 3 million and the judge can reduce it if somebody is found liable. Elena said, I've tried to stay open-minded for past trials, but this is the first trial where I'm completely unsure which side is more at fault going in. See, it's nice coming into it kind of blind like the jury, right? You come into it like the jury and you just go, I don't know. I don't know. So the lawyer's fees can be capped at 300,000. No, chat, that's absolutely correct. The lawyer's fees can be capped, but they're also going to ask for compensatory damages, pain, suffering, and all of those things. So, but yes, I have no idea on this one. Here's what I believe to be true sitting here today. There was a collision on a ski slope. There may or may not be GoPro footage. We don't know how it was caused. And the plaintiff had broken ribs and has had some issues and had a concussion. I don't know how long he was I am unsure. If he was unconscious, I am unsure. And that's what I know for sure. Kyle asked, why did you choose the worst image of Gwyneth? I didn't. I thought it's the first day of court. When we're doing court trial coverage, I try to pick photos from court. Gwyneth has been very cranky with the AP photographer, so there are very few photos of her face from court. This was one of the photos from the first day of court that was from the pool feed. So pool cameras are fair use. And so trying to get, not through the screen on this, trying to get to the AP still photos is difficult because there aren't very many because she kept holding her binder or her notepad in front of her face. I thought it was a generous thumbnail. So that's what it is. Bronco said YouTube updates should be done by 12 p.m. PDT. Thank you. It's difficult. Could it be asked if someone without the plaintiff's prior medical problems had the same accident, would damages be the same? You can't, because you find the plaintiff. This is that theory that you might hear of eggshell plaintiff. You take the plaintiff as you find them. So it's not like, oh, well, you whacked into the wrong person and they got more damage than somebody else would be. It's what happened to this person. So was this person this injured? Then that is on you. So if somebody knocked into me on a ski slope, the probability of me tearing an ACL or some shit is pretty high. I have a lot of orthopedic, especially soft tissue orthopedic quirks, but that doesn't mean I'm any less damaged, even though my brother, who's in much better shape than I am and is like 6'4", wouldn't have been injured the same way, right? Or another woman my age wouldn't have the same quirks of soft tissue and ligament elasticity. So you take the plaintiff as you find them. That's where the eggshell starts to come in. It's not diminished because this plaintiff was more injured than somebody else might have been. The velocity at which his head hit the snow and caused him damage might be way less than would the force or velocity needed to harm someone else. So that is, you take the plaintiff as you find them. Have I told you guys about getting hit in my car? I got rear-ended in my car going to my first follow-up doctor's appointment after my spinal fusion, the way I was angry, the way I was so fucking angry to get rear-ended in my car when I was on my way, like a week and a half after my spinal fusion, on the way to my doctor to have a checkup on how the screw into my fucking spine. The other party was super apologetic. We ended up dealing with it. But if more damage had been caused to me because I was recovering from a spinal fusion, that's not my problem. That's the problem of the person who hit me. If you had rear-ended me in my car 3 or 4 weeks before, you probably wouldn't have done much damage because my back was already super fucked. But running into me after surgery, if it had caused damage, which it didn't, if it had caused damage, would have been a problem. The other party started crying, by the way, when I gave her my business card, and she was like, and I'm like, I am on my way to my doctor because of my spinal fusion. If this is a problem, we are going to have to deal with it. And she was like, you just had a spinal fusion. I'm like, and I'm an attorney. And she's like, my husband is going to be so angry. I'm like, we'll just see what happens. My fusion was fine. I recovered fine. I had some more quirks. We never pursued it any further than that, but I was so scared and upset because I had been through years of back stuff, and I had been through a disectomy and all of the other stuff before getting to my spinal fusion. So frustrated. It ended up working out just fine, but it's not my fault that I am an eggshell plaintiff in that circumstance because I'm just coming out of surgery. So that, but the
Thank
other
you.
party was deeply
Mr.
apologetic.
Sykes, you may proceed.
Accidents do happen.
You call
Ooh, this is, I think, one of the kids. I'm very excited to hear this. So anyway, eggshell plaintiff doesn't count against you. Yes, he was wearing a helmet, and so was Gwyneth
I swear
Paltrow.
that the testimony you are about to give to the court is
Oh,
the truth, the
Trisha,
whole
I'm
truth,
sorry.
and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Thank you.
Over here.
Have a seat.
It'll be interesting to hear from those kids. And again, they know
Good morning,
him
Ms.
best.
Gresham. Would you start by stating your full name and spelling it?
Sure.
You might need to move that microphone a little bit to the center. There you go.
Okay. My name is Polly Sanderson Grashan. Need spelling?
Yes.
Yeah, would you spell it?
Okay. Polly is Polly. Sanderson, Sanderson. Gresham is spelled Grasham.
I would have spelled it Grisham.
Jerry, if you would, your age.
Yeah, just turned 49.
Okay. We all thought of 39, so don't worry about that. Now, tell them a little bit about your background in terms of where you grew up, your education, et cetera. Take us
She
to
grew up in
university.
Utah.
Okay. Grew up in a small town in southern Idaho, Soda
Oh,
Springs.
not Utah.
Graduated from high school there in 1992. Went on to college
I love
at
all the 90s
University of
babies.
Idaho in Moscow.
Cheers, Polly.
Left there in about 98.
Okay.
Moved to Missoula, Montana, and finished my degree there in 2005 at the University of Montana.
Okay. Where are you currently living?
So I reside in the northern region of Idaho, the Panhandle, kind of on the southern end of Lake Coeur d'Alene.
Okay.
And her father
are you married?
lives in
I
Idaho
am.
as well.
My husband
yes,
and I have been
she went
married
to
for
University of
25
Idaho.
years.
Okay. And how long have you lived in the Coeur d'Alene area?
So we were up north going to college
CEGB
in
pronouncing
Moscow.
it wrong for an entire podcast.
And
I've
then we
got
had
it now. It's
about
Coeur
5 years
Coeur
in
d'Alene.
Missoula, and then returned back in 2005.
She
to-
went to
to
college.
North Idaho.
She went to college in Moscow because she went
What
to
do you
University
do?
of
What's
Idaho.
your occupation?
Yeah, so I work for the University Extension System. I teach.
The University of Idaho or
University
ISU?
of Idaho,
Oh,
yep. So some people are familiar with the 4-H program. I teach
Oh my God, I'm
STEM
fascinated.
education, youth, ages
kind of
5
love
through
her.
13. So bring science, technology, engineering, math to schools. And I'm also a master food safety advisor. So anyone in the community that wants to safely preserve their, I teach pressure canning classes, things like that.
like prepper stuff. I
And,
love it so much. 4-H and food canning.
Is
I'm
that
here
your
for all
only
of it.
job up there, the extension service, or you have other jobs you do?
That's my paid position, and then I volunteer with other things.
Okay, and your husband, what does he do?
He's employed through the Forest Service, so he's been a wildland firefighter for 31 years.
Well, thank him for his work.
I hope he doesn't have much to do this summer, hopefully.
We all do.
All right. Now you're Terry's daughter, is that correct?
I enjoy him.
That's right.
I
So
enjoy her, and I
Terry has
enjoy
3
her so
daughters,
much.
And I'm the middle one.
Okay,
I love
who's the
her. I
older
love
one?
her husband. I love it all. I
So
love everything
my
about
older
them.
sister is Shay, and
Yeah.
she's about 2.5 years older than I. And
I want her to teach me how to
52?
can shit.
Ish?
yeah,
Okay. And then Jenny?
yeah, Jenny is quite a bit younger. I think she is.
Like I love the nose
40,
ring. I love the gray
41.
streaks. I fucking love
I'd
everything.
like to talk to you
I
about
love it.
Terry Sanderson before the ski accident of February 26, 2016. I'd like to ask you to tell the jury generally about his activity level before that ski crash.
Okay. Sorry, I'm nervous.
This is the first time you've been on a witness?
Yeah, I've served on a jury, so yeah, that's a different perspective.
Yeah, I love all of it. I love
great
all
little
of it.
civics lesson.
I'm going to give you a water. And
Oh, the jury's
Thanks.
gonna love her too. The jury is absolutely going to love her. They better not do a tough cross-examination, or it is not gonna go well. She's delightful.
a little bit about your father's activity level. But you know what, first, before you answer that question, a foundational question.
Cindy, 3 degrees is a lot.
You live
Congratulations.
in Idaho. I've lived there, I'm sorry, in the Coeur d'Alene, Idaho area. And you've lived there since about '05, roughly.
All right, y'all. If you see
And
me
you can
looking
answer
down,
yes
it's
or
because I'm
no to
trying to
these.
deal with
Yeah.
stream quality
And,
stuff the best I can.
So how often have you seen him during these last few years? Let's say after
I am paying
2010.
attention, but I also want streaming to be a
so
good
it was a little
experience.
harder when he,
for the almost
moved to
20,000 of you
Salt
in here.
Lake City. I think he loved all that Salt Lake City offered, concerts and skiing, but it was a further distance from. My sisters and I are relatively close, so but we would make time to be together on the holidays. Usually travel to see him in the summer. I'd say 2 or 3 or 4 times a year.
Okay. And for how long? I mean, would you be a few hours or a few days or a week or what?
Yeah, typically a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say in the 5 or 6 years or so before this February 26, 2016 ski crash, describe for the jury his activity level in everything you can think of.
You guys, I'm going to ask you a poll about glitching and what
So
device you're
would
on so I can
describe
give
my
that
dad
feedback
as
to
a
YouTube.
goer.
So you're going to see that in a second.
I think people would describe him as fun-loving, very gregarious, definitely an extrovert. So enjoyed people, dancing, outdoor activity, just engaged. So if we went places, give ourselves plenty of time because he would need to visit and follow up with people, very social. A real positive influence, just really could shine people on.
Would you have these connections in the Coeur d'Alene area or in Salt Lake or both?
Yeah, both.
Describe some of the events where he would visit with people. You just mentioned he would take
I'm gonna
extra
put up a
time
poll.
to visit with people. Describe some of those events.
Thank you all.
Well, yeah, even, eating out at a restaurant or in the high school gymnasium, I think he really got to know people, loved people. He would always remember my friends' names, so would follow up with, hey, how's your friend Sam doing? He knew what was going on in my life and engaged wherever he was.
You mentioned volunteer, I think. Do you know what he did in terms of volunteering?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was something, when he retired, he really stayed engaged,
not
but
in
had
court
more
for his
free time
daughter.
to do those kind of things. So
He has been in court only
he
for
volunteered
opening.
things like the green team, so
It's
he
gotta
could
be
go
hard to
catch
hear how you've
concerts, and then they would kind of
declined,
do the
though.
cleanup and the recycling afterwards. I believe.
No, put iPad with Apple's, Apple
Yeah.
Mobile.
To go clean up
iPad
after
counts
a
for
concert.
Apple Mobile.
Yeah, yeah, but he enjoyed the social aspects of it and getting to see music and yeah, he volunteered for an organization. I think it was called People Helping People, and so any kind of person that wanted to advance their career or profession, he would offer to review their resume, practice interview skills, things like that. And he was very proud of, you know, being able to help this person grow into their full capacity.
What is the green team at Sundance? What is that exactly?
I think it's just cleanup. I think in between showings or in between music venues, right, they go in and they clean up and they sort what can be recycled. And
So they help clean up Sundance when
What
there's
type of
events going on there?
In these 4 or 5 times a year that you saw him, what kind of activities did you do with him?
mhm,
Describe those.
just enjoyed our time together. So
Sorry, y'all are gonna hear that.
Um,
That's chat. Let me turn that
cooking
off.
dinner. We spent a lot of time outdoors, so going for walks, bicycle rides, hikes. We hadn't gone skiing in the last couple of years. That was an activity that we did together. We'd go boating. We would go to museums. A lot of times we would take my daughters or my nieces to museums. Yeah, just generally catch up.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 daughters.
And how old are they?
So my oldest Hope is 25, youngest Anna is 22.
How did Terry get along with him?
Before the accident, he was always just a big cheerleader, knew what was going on in their lives, followed up with their classes, showed up for events, you know, would go to things like basketball games when he was in town.
Was he able to, you know, if you saw him in, let's say, December, and you next saw him in March, did
I'm sorry if you guys can hear
in
the
his
bangs.
mind prior to the ski crash?
I can't get rid of those.
What they had been doing, could you remember those things?
Oh yeah, yeah, and they're friends too, right?
Names of the friends?
Names of the friends, yeah. Granted, it's a small town.
What's the name of the town actually?
So I live in between Harrison and St. Mary's.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's got St. Mary's address.
It does, closer to Harrison, but
Did you ever do projects together of any kind?
yeah, because that's what dads do, right? He would, yeah, so a lot of, you know, repair projects I might have around the house. He helped me install the irrigation in my garden
so loud.
beds, and I had a leaky
I don't know if I
sink.
can turn down the
Anything that
volume
had
of those
working,
customer service
not working,
bings. Oh, wait, I can
electrical
mute
that
the
I was
tab.
having
Hold on.
issues with, you know,
Mute this
he
tab.
knew where my husband's toolbox was, and he was always willing to help me figure things out.
Okay,
I will be victorious over the tech.
about your dad's personality, his personality before the crash.
Some of the sound
I
inconsistencies is
think in
these
my
lawyers
description of him, you know, I
not being,
mentioned he's
right in front of the
really
microphones.
fun-loving, gregarious, was really quick with a joke and a smile, and just real positive.
Was he easy to be around?
Sorry, y'all.
Oh,
The bings are
definitely,
not
yeah.
y'all.
And just
the
made
bing,
everything
The bing
kinda
bonging is not
smooth.
y'all.
Did he have any negatives that repelled people that you can think of?
Any what?
Negatives that repelled people?
Oh.
I'm going to turn this up a little bit.
You know, sometimes I think when you are kind of that energy, right, you have to be mindful of the fact that of other people too. And I think he had the tendency to, sometimes not always notice everyone in the room, or you know, he was a little bit more self-aware, I'd say.
Could be
Right.
a little more self-aware or was self-aware.
What about his mental status? You've mentioned a few things that cross over into that area, but just kind of summarize for the jury.
Katrina, I appreciate this. Tell your daughter I
As
love
you
her purple
observed it.
hair.
Prior to the ski crash.
So my dad marked. I used to describe him kind of as a mensa mind, and sometimes I think that can almost get you in trouble. But really, really smart, quick to figure things out. I have a memory one time when he'd come to visit, and my dryer wasn't working at the time, so I'd hung diapers out on the line, and he'd said, "Why are you not using your dryer?" I said, "Well, it's taken apart. James had to leave." And so there was all sorts of parts. Originally, James thought it was the heating element. It wasn't. Yes, he'd taken it entirely apart. And my dad was able to troubleshoot it and put it all back together again. And he did that all the time. Like he could figure things out, troubleshoot things.
Do you understand the term executive function?
Somewhat. I think of it as the ability to get things done, multitask, run our legs.
Multitask, good.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you describe to the jury, describe your dad's executive function status before the ski crash?
Yeah, definitely just a manager and really a multitasker. Had a lot going on, far more than
Everybody's
than
described
I
him
would
as
be
a
willing to take
multitasker.
on. I think he liked that. Like I said, he was a mover, a goer. So that was
Not a
just how he
pusher,
operated.
a goer. He was also
Now,
a poster.
Your dad got divorced from your mom. About what year was that?
I was a senior in high school, so 1992.
Okay. A little less than 2 years before the ski crash, he met someone named Carlene Davidson.
So this attorney's not right in front of the microphone. It's why he's so quiet.
Yeah, I did. Really liked Carlene, and my sisters liked her too, her and her little dog. And yeah, it just seemed like a good pair.
Why do you say that? What did you observe about Carlene and Terry that made them a good pair?
They were just loving towards one another.
Carlene testifies.
She had
testified.
girls in St. George and parents, and I liked seeing that they, like my dad helped her sell her parents' house, and empty the furniture out and things like that. I just saw them as being really supportive and loving to one another. I think they had fun together. They laughed a lot. It was kind of gave me hope. I could see my dad growing old with her for sure.
Oh, she must be so sad.
How often do you think you saw them together?
Uh-huh.
Prior to the ski crash?
Yeah. I remember one time coming through, we had an exchange student with us from Japan at the time, and we went to Lagoon, the local amusement park here, and so rode all the rides with my dad and with Carlene.
What year
And
was that, roughly?
2015. Just had a lot of fun. But yeah, she would come for the holidays. She was there at my daughter's graduation party. So
if your dad came, she came during that time?
correct.
Okay.
Chat.
Either Idaho
They're talking about
or
events.
came down to Salt Lake.
They're talking about
Yeah,
going
she
to
was
events,
here,
chat.
yeah.
Did you ever notice your dad to be accident prone or clumsy or bump into things, anything like that?
Prior to the accident?
Yeah.
No, he had really great balance and activity level.
Did he have any problem that you ever noticed? Now, when you came down here, did you ever fly or did you drive?
Oh, both. We did both.
Did you go on car trips with him or to the store or the lagoon, that kind of stuff?
The scariest
Yeah.
car trip I ever
Okay.
had with my parents was
Did you
in
ever notice
Utah.
him have any problems driving?
I think it was Deer
Prior to
Valley
the
we were
accident,
skiing.
no.
Hold on, now I need to ask my mother.
Again, with his multitasking, he would tend to maybe take on more things that I would be comfortable. I would say, "Here, I'll take that call for you," or
So he would be driving and take a call.
Yes, which at the time I had team drivers, so I kind of had these hard and fast rules that it's like if you're going to be driving, you need tuck your phone away, right? So it felt a little bit hypocritical if Dad was in the car to be like, you're not going to answer your phone, right? Because these teens are watching you, and so he might have been capable of that. I mean, he hadn't had accidents or anything, but that was probably a bone of contention. I think not just for myself, but my sisters too. Yeah.
What about health problems? You ever any health problems with him in the several years prior to the ski crash you were aware of?
So that's one of our
Okay, now I have to
hobbies
ask my
that we
mom.
share, because I'm pretty into
I need verification on my
wellness
story.
and supplements too. Yeah, no, I think his health, I think he managed it. He did have issues. He had prostate cancer. He had some issues with his eye. I mean, I was aware, and I'd come for some of those appointments. I mean, I don't know all of it, and that became apparent in my deposition that, like, I haven't reviewed my dad's medical records or anything. It's only what he's shared with me.
Or what you observed?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So, do you have any chronic conditions that you remember that were prominent and you observed them? Now, he had cancer, but that was cured, right?
Yeah. I went through radiation and everything for that.
Yep.
They're
Anything come to
getting
mind?
out ahead of it because the defense is going to ask about it, but
I think he'd had, wow. I think he had migraines and some headaches.
How
Not all
often?
the time.
like having to face your parents'
rarely,
mortality
but I
in court in front of a
remember
jury
when
and a
they-
national
when they
TV
hit,
audience
it'd
would
be a
suck.
hard Go.
Rarely, you said?
Rarely, but I think those existed.
What about sleep apnea? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah,
I know
he
a lot
did
about
have
it.
Some trouble sleeping.
Did he have a CPAP machine, or how did he treat it, if you know?
That's a great question.
Okay.
I don't know.
No. What about depression?
Prior to the accident, I wasn't aware of any struggles.
Has
with
your dad ever been
depression.
diagnosed with
I don't know
ADHD?
that he would have been honest in sharing that
Okay.
with me.
What about,
I think
what
that's a
about
very
losing
fair
energy? Did you
statement.
ever notice him to be losing energy before the ski crash?
No, and usually it was me that if we were together, I'd be like, I need to take a break.
What about alcohol? When you were down here, did he drink alcohol?
I've seen my dad drink before, a beer or a glass of wine. I have never seen my dad intoxicated or anything that I felt like was too much.
Okay.
So I came in on Monday night, and we had some tea together, and then I think he's had a beer since I've been here.
Was it whiskey in a teacup or was it just tea? Like,
Did you ever
She's
notice
just
that
talking
he
about
had
tea.
memory problems or forgetfulness prior to the ski crash?
No.
What about skiing? What was your conversation about skiing?
y'all, I've seen a couple
Prior
comments in
to
the chat about
the
her
ski
voice.
crash.
Her voice is her voice.
So, my history too. I
That's
don't know
it.
if you want to know that.
Sure.
My family started.
This is
off
tremendously
cross-country
difficult to
skiing.
do.
I think I was probably about a kindergartner, and
This is in
we
Soda,
lived-
is it Soda Springs?
Soda Springs, yeah, it was really great country, and it was, something
father
that we
lives
could
in
do
Soda
as a family.
Springs now.
And so we'd pack a picnic, and we spent a lot of weekends like that. And then
I mean, she didn't ask.
probably about
She didn't ask for
1984,
any of this.
we kind of picked up.
This is a
downhill
very
skiing, and
difficult
gosh,
thing
it was
to
a lot
do.
less work getting up the hills.
Yeah.
Fun. And we had, family cousins that would come ski snowbird, so we would come up and ski with them and practice.
So
and,
thank you for being kind to the witnesses. This is just,
And then,
You'll come down,
No.
ski snowbird?
this is
yeah,
not easy to
yeah.
do.
And say, I think our cousins had a condominium at Snowbird, so we would get to crash with them, and it was, lots of kids, lots of cousins. And so then in 1986, one of my good friends, her dad was ski patrol at Targhee, and so we would go most weekends.
And again,
to Targhee
she's
and
a
ski
witness
together.
because she's talking about the change she
What kind of
noticed
skier
in her
was he?
dad from before the accident to after the accident.
He was a better skier than I was.
And that's a
And,
hard thing.
He liked to have fun, but I don't think he took a lot of risks, He was kind of what you would think of as an old man skier, just out to
Okay.
enjoy the day.
So he would sometimes go fast, sometimes with the kids he wouldn't go so fast?
Yeah, and he skied with my kids several times, and
would you rate him as a intermediate or advanced or expert?
I would say between advanced and expert at his best.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then
Did
at 69,
he
maybe
love
not
skiing?
a
Was it
daredevil
something he
anymore.
Yeah, I think it was a big reason for him when he retired to come down this direction. I think it was something he loved to do.
I don't know if I've asked you this, but did you ever notice
He was
vision
very active in
impairment
retirement.
in any way affecting his skiing? Are you aware of that in any way?
You know, after he had that occlusion in his right eye, I think the binocular vision, it was harder to see depth, so it was a little more flat for him. I felt like he was a little more cautious as a skier, for sure.
And I think that's really
Was he
helpful to the plaintiff that
generally a
he's more
healthy person prior to the skiing
cautious
accident?
because
Yes.
of that.
Any particular medical problems you're aware of that he had prior to the accident?
You had mentioned the sleep apnea. We talked about prostate.
I never want to have to be in a room talking about my father's prostate. Dad, I love
No.
you.
Anything come to mind?
Nope. Nope, nope.
Okay.
No, sorry.
Now, let me talk about the ski.
Pimpland,
In
Texas,
my
thank you for
memory,
the gift
at
of memberships.
first I
That's
thought
so
it was a
tremendously
phone call.
kind.
Okay.
I remember telling me that my dad, that he had.
Can we just get a little foundation? Who made the call? Do you mind, Your Honor?
That's not an objection. That's a speaking
If the objection
objection.
is relevant, so I'm going to overrule it, and you can bring it out on
And
cross.
it's hearsay then.
Okay.
Without
Sustained.
Well, make the legal
Okay,
foundational.
tell us how you learned about the ski accident.
Make the legal objection then.
I wasn't sure if it was my dad that called me or my sister that called me.
Okay.
It
Could it have been Carlene, maybe, possibly?
could have been, for sure.
So you don't remember
She's
exactly?
like, I don't remember. It
who
was
told you,
7
but
years
someone told
ago.
Yeah,
you. Okay.
that there had been an accident on the hill that day.
This attorney,
It is. I don't think she's attributing it to any particular individual. If the question is, why don't you ask when she became aware of it?
When did you become aware? of the ski
Paltrow's
accident?
attorney is the one
Lead
who
you, but February
reiterated no
26,
speaking
2016.
objections in his motions
It
in
feels
limine.
like that evening.
And is doing
I
nothing
think
but
of it
speaking
that
objections.
day,
Objection.
that he felt like
Grounds.
he had broken some ribs.
Move on.
That was painful. And I think the words were, he got his bell rung.
Bell rung.
Yeah.
Did you ever find out at any time that Gwyneth Paltrow was involved?
I don't believe that night.
Okay.
He said it at
was
any time.
after the initial accident.
Tell the
At
jury
what time did you find out and how?
about the
I'm curious about that. How did this all come up?
details
I want to know.
of your association with Terry.
Go back. Wait,
Your
counsel.
father.
How did she
After-
find out Paltrow was involved?
When did you come down, and how often have you seen him in the past 7 years?
Wait,
Right.
can we
Summarize that.
can we go?
Right.
She had to learn at
So
some point.
I don't think I
Can
saw
we go
my
back?
dad in person
Yeesh.
until Hope's graduation, which would have been the end of May of that year.
Did you have telephone calls that you exchanged before that?
Yeah, we did,
How
and
often?
text messages. I thought my dad and I talked probably every couple of weeks. The defense during my deposition had pulled phone records, and it didn't look like it was this frequent before that. So it could have been one of those spells. My sister had had an injury, so I was kind of
Focused.
spending a lot of
on your
energy
sister?
taking care of her as well, and my nieces, making sure she had some solid ground. And so with my dad being here in Holiday and knowing he was with Carlene, I felt like things were being kind of taken care of.
So you felt
Makes
comfort that
sense.
Carlene was with him?
Yeah, because I wasn't. And I knew he was, following up with medical care. My dad, being in that occupation, values that and makes sure that, someone's looking at that, checking on that, making sure damages aren't permanent, those kind of things.
It makes sense that she's also dealing with a sister
I've been to
with
Fort
medical
Worth.
stuff and dad's with
Is it about
Colleen.
a 12-hour drive to Salt Lake from there?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And if you fly, you have to drive to Spokane or Missoula, is that it?
Yeah, I flew out of Missoula, but you can fly from Spokane as well. I think the other part of that is with the pandemic, you know, that made a little more travel restrictions in the last few years.
But
I
this
definitely
accident
have
was
not got to spend as much time with him.
this accident was
recently.
2016 though.
Let's
He
talk
sued
about
in
your dad
2019.
after he crashed. Describe, if you would, his ability to keep things in control and keep things organized after the crash.
You know, directly after the crash, I would say a good year and a half, I felt like, I don't want to say stupid, that's not the word, but like his processing speeds, you know, like the effort that it took, definitely when we were in person
Altered?
for Hope's graduation, I felt like, wow. There was a time when he's sitting in a chair by my window
In Idaho?
in Idaho, and I almost expected drool to be coming out of his mouth because his whole, it was, first of all, he wasn't engaged with anybody. He had kind of taken himself to a remote corner, and I just felt
Stimulus
that
can be
was my
overwhelming after a
first
brain injury.
real kind of slap in the face of like, something's terribly wrong.
Oh, I feel for her.
How about his ability to keep from getting frustrated and overwhelmed?
Oh,
That change at all?
I feel for her.
I think that's the biggest change right now, right?
Tell the
He's-
jury about it.
Yeah, I think, let me describe it. He's really, you know, the
Chat, for all of you
details
that
and
have
the
had
minutia,
cognitive decline in a
like, he
parent,
can't
I'm
see
sure
the
that this is
forest for
very
the
difficult
trees. It's very much
to watch. Just take care of you.
kids stuck in really small things. And so for me, it's always that pullback of like, well, let's look at the big picture.
Oh,
Even just last night, I was thinking about,
If you're
you know,
just
when you
coming in,
write
this
an
is the
essay and you
plaintiff's
have a topic
middle daughter.
sentence, and then you add supporting sentences with some details for that main sentence. It's like the main sentence is gone, and all we have are the little details. And so then you're kind of going, well, then, so how does this relate to that? You know, I think he's just, if it's part of the frustration, is he gets really caught up in details and connections, and the primary focus or purpose, we lose that. And so then I have to come back around and I have to say, oh, how does that connect with the kimchi we were talking about, or the damage to your phone port? Like, I have to kind of bring it full circle. And then, you know, I think he gets frustrated and angry. I have tried to, you know, remind him that, because before he could have lots going on, and now it's very A to B. A to B, don't throw in a C or a D, right? Because then we're gone completely. So how do we simplify, you know, and just this task, just A to B. And I had a conversation with my dad and my sister Jenny's boyfriend Nathan, and I was trying to say, you know, maybe take it as kind of a gift to be in the present with what you're doing right now. You know, let's just focus on this one step. And I think that's easy for me to try to say, how do we move forward? But I understand that there's a lot of grief and loss for the way that his life functioned before, that it doesn't function now.
Of course it is.
He doesn't always appreciate my let's stay in the moment, or what are the gifts, what we can learn from now. He's still kind of grieving and frustrated that he doesn't think the way he thought before function the way he did.
Any change in his ability to get things done?
It's really messy right now. It's really hard. And I say, Dad, you can hire somebody to do that. You know, if your house is messy, let's get some help. Or somebody can help you with the blowing out the sprinkler system. Like, those are things we can have other people help you do. But I think he has a hard time with the way they do the work, and he's kind of real negative, and it doesn't feel like that's been an answer for him. And I tried to lead him in that direction so that he doesn't feel like there's just so much. And he'll say that I'm behind. I'm so behind. I can't get things done. Even coming to his house this week, right? I know that this has been.
It seems uncontroverted to me that he changed after this accident.
But I could.
And that's heartbreaking. What caused it is different. But he clearly changed after the accident. All of the testimony is pointed at that.
And there's a lot of busyness, but it's not effective, right?
It's heartbreaking. So all of you in the chat, if you need to take a pause, we timestamp all the witnesses. If you've dealt with parents with cognitive decline,
and my dad always
due
had
to
a good
whatever it
idea,
is,
kind of north-south.
Take care of yourself first. I will summarize these things.
I have he'll say, oh, I can get you there, but I've come to rely on my navigation device when I come. Because he does get confused, even just going down to the park.
Has he gotten lost with you?
Yes.
Tell the jury about that.
Well, we were headed down to Sugar House Park, you know, and he, this is when I had come down for the deposition, so 2020, June of 2020. Yeah. He's like, oh, it's real simple, you know, we'll just go here and there, and we got somewhere, and I was like, I don't think this is right, and then, you know, pull up my Google Maps on my phone, and he's like, no, I can find it, you know, and he's like, I just need a minute, you know, and
so he got lost.
Yeah. I don't think that was as bad of a situation, right? He's with me, he's not alone. I have Google Maps. But yeah, besides just the directionality thing, we spent a summer day out on the lake, and we had attached an inner tube so that we could pull them behind boat. And my dad could not secure the boat or the inner tube to the boat, and just like a simple hitch knot, you know, and it came off once, and he said, oh, you know, he just kind of embarrassed my husband, like showed him again, you know, the next time. I think it was probably the third time. He just shook his head, you know, like he couldn't secure the knot of the, yeah.
Is that unusual for him? Did that change?
Yeah, definitely.
And that is what her testimony is about, the change.
Did you have a chance in the 6 months after the crash to observe your dad
and the cross-examination is going to be on whether this is aging or whether this is a change because of the accident.
Him and what happened to that relationship?
Yeah, I mentioned that me seeing him in person was about 3 months after the accident, and I just really saw Carlene step up in a way, you know, of, oh, Terry, don't forget your jacket. We're getting ready to go. Repeating conversations that he had missed where he was like maybe out of the picture, and she would fill him in of, you know, Anna's gonna go here, or yeah, she just was carrying and stepped up where he seemed a little slow.
That's hard.
I don't really know. I wish I'd had the opportunity to really talk with her. And like I said, the last time I saw her was at that graduation, and so
that was May of
2016. And I think because we had neighbors and friends and my mom and everyone there, I didn't get to have a private conversation really about how my dad was doing. and or how their relationship was going and if she was doing okay.
At graduation, your mom came?
Yes.
The one that he had divorced, right?
Right.
And how'd they get along?
They don't get along. There's usually a lot of distance. I mean, they share family members, so I think they're respectful of that and come to the celebration, shared celebrations, but they don't usually converse or connect.
Was he respectful?
Was my mom respectful?
No, your dad.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
That go round.
That go round. Okay. Any change in his social friends that you observed?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what it would be.
I'm not super close with his friendships, but it does feel like they've kind of fallen away. Relationships, friendships has been really hard for him to navigate.
You told me once that it was a lot harder for him. He had to work a lot harder to be a friend. Is that a fair
Yeah.
statement? Explain
Yeah.
that. Explain that.
It feels like after the accident, he's a little more involved with his own world, and that's harder to sustain connections when it's kind of about me
I
right
would
now.
imagine it's also hard to sustain connection if you feel like your brain's
That's
not
a
working
change.
properly.
I didn't.
I don't know. Neurodivergent
makes
friends,
it
and you're
really
trying to
hard
mask
to
not
just,
processing. It can be hard. I feel for her.
To genuinely care about people, that's part of our connection.
Have you observed any personality changes? And if so, what have you observed?
Personality changes.
I think it's kind of connected to feeling overwhelmed. So he's easily frustrated. He gets agitated, angry for the first time. Like I didn't have memories of him being an angry person, but he's got a pretty short fuse these days.
Since the accident.
Yes. Yeah.
What about any other personality changes come to mind?
I think he's just a little more cautious, not as confident.
Is he having fun?
No, I think he's in a really negative place, and that's hard for me as his daughter.
Based on what you have seen since the crash, okay, as a daughter who apparently loves him, it's evident, would you recommend that he travel overseas by himself?
No.
Why not?
No. I think
If he's having a hard time navigating to a
disorientation,
park he's used to, it's going to make it
yeah, I
hard.
think he needs help. I think.
If he goes with someone, is that okay, do you think? If he has a friend that goes with him?
I think it depends on the someone.
All right. Someone who's trustworthy.
Yeah, he cares about him.
Any observations about executive function changes since the ski crash?
Well, I mentioned just no ability to multitask, really.
So what's that?
Yeah. I think,
I don't know if they mean multitasking or if they mean processing.
again, not seeing
Processing
the forest for
multiple
the trees,
pieces of
really-
information at
really
once, I
caught
wonder.
in minutia. And I don't see him like reading a book or, those kind of things that would previously be enjoyable.
Just a few more questions for you. Everybody has negative traits, right? Or traits that aren't refined to the extent that it would be helpful to be refined.
They must
right?
be getting ready for
Sure.
cross-examination.
And your dad probably has some of those. I'd like you to tell the jury if you saw any increase in intensity of negative traits after the ski crash. If so,
Is he more difficult?
I have this example that had happened when we were sitting on his back deck on a summer day, and I could kind of see into the neighbor's back patio, and it looked like she had done a lot of work. She had kind of some neat rugs and place to meditate, and I was like, wow, that's a neat spot they created there. And my dad started going on about where they had planted a tree and right in his view. And I thought, okay, that's super small and petty. You have a really beautiful view right here, you know? And then he said, I'm pretty sure like she puts her garbage can right there. She does that just to make me mad. And then he said, you wouldn't believe what she did.
Oh,
I
shit.
did get a letter from her apologizing. She sent a card saying, I am so sorry, I shouldn't have done that. But when he wasn't home, she had gone and moved a pile that he had that was just outside of his gardening stuff and tools and kind of a messy pile. He had put it on his boundary, and so that was probably what she was seeing when she was gonna meditate or whatever. And so she had come over to move the pile so that it was out of sight. And in this card, she had just said, I just wanted to apologize, that was so wrong. And he was so upset that she had done that. And I said, that's really huge of her to acknowledge.
So he refused to acknowledge the apology?
Yes, and the fact that she was human, had made a mistake, she had apologized, and I kept thinking, you know, those relationships with our neighbors, I love my neighbors, and my dad's always had good neighbors, right? So I thought, we had gotten into kind of a disagreement that morning, because I was like, those are really small things.
How different is that from how he was before the crash?
I feel like, you know, even if you had a difference of opinion, we could always kind of reason through it, agree to disagree, get along, take care of one another. And so that was a hard thing for us to talk about, is that that's small and you're bigger than that, you know? And it's kind of reversed because he was my dad that gave me those values. And then it feels like they've kind of fallen away and he's stuck in that. But I'm so mad and I'm so frustrated, you know.
Any change in his cognitive functioning that you haven't already talked about? Kind of summarize that, would you? Cognitive functioning.
Yeah, I think his operating system is not quite as slow as that initial year and a half where I was just, well.
Been some improvement.
Some improvement. I think he's been really dedicated to sort of
Working hard.
He is a I will work hard kind of guy, maybe to a fault, but yeah.
What about the negatives? Any negatives in his cognitive functioning that remain? You've seen. You've mentioned some already, but.
And a lot of it goes with that inability to multitask. I think I see it in that, if I could describe, like when we're conversing or whatever, I don't feel like he hears me. I don't feel like when he has a conversation with my kids that he actually hears them. I think he's like processing or thinking about what he's going to say next, but that is something that's really apparent to me, that I just feel like, where are you? Where is your headspace right now? Because you're not here with me. Or
yeah, well, I'm still working on glitch issues.
I can witness that.
I've been told that everything's working fine on their end, and to update your app if you need to.
Do you know someone named Robin Dale?
I do.
Was there a change in that friendship? If so, tell us what it was.
Yeah, that turned out to be pretty bad, to the point where, and they had traveled together. I think they went to Costa Rica, maybe.
After the crash, right?
After the crash, they would have gone. They would have traveled.
What happened to Robin Dale?
Yeah, I was at the public library one day and I got a phone call from Robin. And
about what month of what year, give or take?
Gosh, I wish I'd brought my phone or had it. I'm following court rules. I think
she's like, I don't know, which is fair. Like, I need to look at something.
She said,
Sustained?
Well, I'm not offering for the truth of what happened, but just for how this affected his friendship.
And
Just,
Still, you're saying, I don't know.
I don't know how you can separate it. You're offering up for what purpose?
I want to show how the friendship changed.
Okay, I'll allow it for that limited purpose.
Go ahead.
So she called and she had said, I need you to reach out to your dad. I'm not feeling safe right now, and I'm going to have our young son, you know, we're going to move back into my place. And I said, what do you mean you don't feel safe?
That's scary and sad.
And she had said, I've asked your dad several times not to attend my yoga class, and he has shown up. And I'm thinking, seriously? Like, you asked him and he showed up again? At some point I had texted her back and just said, I thank you for trusting me, and I will reach out to my dad. I'll have my sisters and we'll offer some support. This is strange for me. I don't know my dad to be unsafe, right? But I also wanted to believe her, because I think it's important that we try to believe people. But her experience said that, you know, he had changed, that she didn't feel safe. And I said, get yourself to a safe place then, and I'll follow with my dad. I then did call my dad and said, please don't do that. He said, I'm not going to hurt her. There's nothing, you know. I said, she has asked you, and you need to respect that boundary. That's important that you,
This
if
daughter
she
is
doesn't feel
just
good, that
like
you
trying to
respect that.
manage all of it. I feel for
That
her
was it,
tremendously.
yes.
Okay. What about,
I indicated at the beginning of the trial that if there was any evidence received for limited purpose, that I would give an instruction to the jury. So members of the jury, some evidence is received for a limited purpose only. When I instruct you that an item of
I like this
evidence has
judge a
been
lot.
received for a limited purpose, you must consider it only for that limited purpose. In this case, this evidence was not offered as to the truth of what, is it Robin? What Robin Dale said to the witness, but rather as to this witness's understanding of the relationship change.
that's correct. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Do you know Mark Harris?
I do. So that would be my brother-in-law's brother.
Your brother-in-law's brother? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So Shay is married to a Harris, right?
Correct.
And that Harris has a brother named Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did that relationship
Yes.
change, if you know?
I know they spent a lot of time before the accident together, and I don't believe they spent as much time.
Do you know why it changed?
I do not.
What about someone named Sakia, S-A-K-I-E, from Holland? You aware of that person?
Yeah, again, she had come over from the Netherlands, and that relationship didn't work out, and she left.
You mentioned a few things about this, but other than what you've already said, I don't want you to repeat what you've already said, but what about anger, his ability to control anger? Did that change?
Yeah, I think the frustration, the temper, yeah, very much so. I have a memory. My younger sister Jenny and I decided it was time to help clean out my grandparents' house. They had both passed away, and when they had passed away,
YouTube's kind of like, it's
you
not
know,
us, it's
I
you.
had a new baby.
It's not
My
me, it's
sister
you.
had a new job. It just didn't feel like a great time to actually clean out, sell the house, and so I could tell that that was really weighing on my dad's mind. Like, I need to go take care of that house, and so my younger sister and I.
Before you go on, just give us an approximate year and month, if you can.
Yeah, summer of 2019.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
Yeah. So we were working hard. They were Depression era parents, so they didn't just have, 2 pie plates. They had 16 pie plates.
You know when you're gonna
we had
need
a
them.
lot to clean out. We were getting up early and going to bed late. We
That's
had
hard.
sold most of their furniture, so we were on camp pads and bedrooms. We were kind of camping out as we were painting and cleaning and getting ready to put my grandparents' house on the market. And so pretty late in the evening, I had gone to meditate in one of the back bedrooms. And
All I keep
Yeah,
hearing is that I need
just
more
take
time
a-
to
take a
meditate.
break and,
I need to be
something
as centered
about
as this witness is.
And I heard my dad's voice elevate, and it didn't sound good. And I thought,
Angry voice or?
yeah, he was mad. And I thought, what's going on? I
She said you've interrupted my fucking meditation.
sat for a minute to see if anything
I'm trying to be
changed,
zen.
And I went into the kitchen, and my dad was in my younger sister's face. He was like 2 inches from her face.
I
and
think this is
he
the younger
so
sister that is
mad.
going
He's so
to
angry.
testify for the defense.
And I don't know what the conversation or the disagreement was about, but he was saying, fuck you. He just kept repeating that over and over again. And my
That seems
younger
odd.
sister,
Anything like that in your life?
That seems unlikely.
No.
Right.
With your dad?
no, I've never felt scared of my dad. I don't think I ever received a spanking from my dad. I think he's been upset, but I have never seen, I was terrified. And I just said, no, like this has to stop, right? And it was just like, he was in shock of what he was doing too. And my sister didn't respond. It was terrible. It was terrible. And we had been there working so hard, and that was not anything that my sister deserved.
That's it.
What about any changes in feeling overwhelmed and confused?
That's a big part of where he's at right now. Right? That's just,
I get angry when I get overwhelmed
is
sometimes
just
too.
befuddled, and yeah.
How about preoccupation with details?
Mm-hmm. We talked about that a little bit. I think that's where he's stuck. He can't really see the big picture.
So overwhelmed and confused, you think, is one of the big things that...
I kind of love that she just dropped the fuck
Plaguing
bombs in
him
courts.
now.
I do.
Yeah.
I got to be honest.
Let's see, I think I'm about done here. Let me- Well, okay, just in conclusion, based on what you've seen since the ski crash, what do you see on the horizon for him?
Yeah, I like Polly.
Delmetry?
Yeah.
I feel like Polly would be fun to go hiking with.
I hope that he moves on. I hope that we're able to put this very strange chapter behind us. I think
It feels like he's gotten stuck on it.
we
I don't know if that
always
helps.
choose the doors that we walk through, but we can choose like how we walk through them. And so I think we have a lot of healing to do, and
I think some of this helps.
just that rehab, so that he doesn't feel
I think some of this helps
that he
Paltrow.
feels empowered to live a good life to the end. He deserves that.
May I have one moment, Judge? Counsel Taylor, thanks.
I think that could come across as helpful to Paltrow, saying he is stuck on this thing. And
No
he
further
is
questions,
stuck on this
Judge.
thing and can't move forward.
In 1 hour.
Yeah.
They're keeping time, so there's equal time.
Thank you. So Member,
I think he said no
are we
cross.
good to go 10 or 15 more minutes and then take our lunch?
Yeah, I've got 15 minutes to lunch.
Okay.
Let
Thank
them
you.
start
Let's
their
do that.
cross.
Mr. Owens.
But it sounds like he's getting stuck on things. Oh, not Owens. He's getting stuck on things, and that might help.
But there is a tissue box here.
That might help Paltrow, saying this is a man who is stuck on this and cannot move forward, and he's blaming Paltrow, and it's not her fault.
Please do.
That might help.
You and I haven't
That-
met. True?
Nice to meet you.
To you too.
Don't be mean to her, Owens. We will turn on you quickly.
All right. This is hard. This is a hard position you're in. Do you agree?
Yes.
This is not a happy thing that you're having to do.
Why are you smiling so much,
Correct.
dude? I'm already
And
mad.
Let me just,
Emily, be
I
zen.
think my nephew, who
Center.
once worked with me.
Ground.
Deposition before. Do you recall that?
Yeah, Wayne Owens.
And we'll talk about that.
Calm,
after
calm,
lunch.
be calm. Where's my fan?
The
Be fair, be
He also
calm.
took the depositions of your two sisters. Have you ever reviewed their transcripts? Like, actually read them?
No.
We're sending some
How
zen
about
your way,
summaries of
Polly.
them?
We're gonna fluff everyone's
More
aura.
of an oral like, you know, maybe my sister Shay would say. I did ask this.
And then this is our
Zen for
third day. I'm
Polly.
just wondering, have
Zen
you
for
watched any of
chat.
the proceedings the prior 2
We're
days?
fluffing your auras.
No.
All right, let's fluff mine.
One thing that, there was a fellow yesterday named Sam Goldstein, who's a neuropsychologist. He said your dad is obsessed.
He's a neuropsychologist.
Sort of with this. Do you agree?
Oh, yes. I think at some point I had sent my dad a message.
And I think that's
that
helpful
said,
for
you know,
defense.
Go for a walk. Please don't let this consume you, because I'm very aware that it has been consuming for him.
And in some
How does that
sense,
land with y'all? He's
the
obsessed
resolution
with
of this
this.
trial, whether it's for or against him, will be a good thing for him. Do you agree? Bring some closure for him
For everyone.
and him. Yes?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, there's a audio, and so we always have to get your answer on the record. Thank you.
I think that is a
Jenny is
very
your little
difficult thing for
sister,
plaintiff,
right?
that he's obsessed with this
Is
and
she the
cannot
one
let it go.
That your dad said F you to?
Correct.
Counsel, drop an F-bomb. Owens, drop it. Drop the fuck bomb, Owens.
Let me back up one more second.
That is my new goal this trial, is
The
to
whole
see this
lawsuit
attorney say
stems,
fuck at one point.
From
I'm here for it. I don't think
you
you
understand that my client says that your dad plowed into her back. Do you understand at least that allegation?
I'm hearing that now.
And you don't personally know whether your dad did that or not, correct? You weren't present.
I was not skiing with him that day, no.
And when your dad talked to you about bringing the lawsuit, you had no opinion on it? Like, it's your thing. Is that fair?
I wanted to honor his journey. I think that's a big part, that we have autonomy. And so I would support my dad, whichever direction.
Sure, but you didn't say, I think it's a good idea, Dad, that you bring the lawsuit, or
I most definitely did not advise him one way or another.
Yeah.
I think in hindsight now,
She's like, you need to walk your
I
attorney.
would say it's hard.
Actually, I have no pending. Oh, it's hard.
It will be hard, right? I knew that.
And it has been.
I want you to see if you kind of preface some of the things I'm going to ask you. So when I hear you say before, he's generally a healthy guy, before very good personality, before very active, good mental health, you understand that to compare what the ski accident did versus old age versus chronic health conditions and everything, I need to know kind of how your dad was on health, personality, mental health, activity level, and those things just before the event. You with me?
Sure.
So a lot of, when I say friend, he never he never seemed angry. He never got that angry with me. Didn't you say that? Like, for
Chad,
instance,
I agree we
his
will probably
anger
never
toward,
see Owen swear, but I'm here for it.
That was a new
Jenny.
experience.
It's something
for
I want
me.
to see.
But it wasn't for Jenny, was it? Jenny's reported like 10 years of that kind of abuse.
Oh, that's a big word.
In the last 10 years of your parents'
For
marriage.
little sister.
True?
I can't speak to Jenny's experience.
Do you know
Did
that?
I witness that
not
towards
going to.
Jenny? I never witnessed that towards
Did
Jenny.
Jenny ever tell you, like, your dad used to verbally abuse her and your mom for 10 years?
Jenny and I have a very
Yes.
close relationship.
Just a yes or no, please. I need a yes or no.
There's no foundation. And it's also
Your Honor, I need to be able to ask these questions.
It doesn't
Sustained.
matter if they're hearsay, counsel, whether you want to ask them or not.
Do you agree that you paint quite a different picture of your dad before than Jenny does?
How would she know that?
So my sister Jenny
Yes or no,
has
please?
mental disability.
I just have yes or no questions.
That are objectionable.
Okay, let me just give you a little instruction about, that I've already said in open court, so everybody else is
The
doing this
way
for the second
that
time.
this attorney is like,
When you're being cross-examined,
I would like to ask this
it's not like a
question.
normal conversation.
That's not how it works.
So the lawyer is entitled to ask you
This
questions
attorney,
that
man.
limit your answer to yes or no. I can't answer that yes or no. So those are basically your three choices. If he
I
gives you
think I
that
would have
kind of a-
left.
sometimes
I
he'll ask
honestly
an
think if
open-ended
I'm this
question, but if
attorney,
he's
no, I
asking the
can't think if I'm this
yes or no
attorney because
question,
the audacity.
He's entitled to that answer. And then
I think if
later,
I'm defense
Mr. Sykes will
counsel,
be able to
I'm
clarify if
focused on, but your
necessary.
father's obsessed with this
Maybe
and won't let it
another
go,
way
and
to
I would
phrase
focus
this
on the
too.
other things he gets obsessed with and won't let
I don't
go.
have a pending question.
Well, you did.
It's withdrawn, go ahead.
Snap.
Ask a
And I
question,
would
Mr.
move
Owens.
on.
Yesterday, the jury heard.
I like, because I like her and I think the jury will too. I would focus
through,
on the obsession.
Your dad's mental health providers, that,
This attorney's like,
I'm
I would
gonna
like
try
to ask a
read this
question.
so
Well,
I'm
ask a
not
proper
winging
one.
it. Your dad was
Is there a
controlling,
question?
highly controlling of her long before the ski
Objection.
accident.
Objection.
Have you ever heard that from Jenny?
Objection calls for hearsay.
From the question that states the evidence.
Calls for hearsay.
Overruled, the jury will remember what the evidence was.
It calls for counsel.
Yes or
You
no?
missed the proper objection.
Can you repeat?
Yes. Has Jenny ever? Are you close to your sister Jenny?
Very.
Right. You're
Right.
close to your sister Shay.
Yes.
All right, and always have been.
Yes.
Okay. Jenny didn't talk to your dad for 13 years after getting out of the house after high school. Is that true?
There's no foundation for that.
No.
She can. It's not true.
13 years.
Just a minute, there's an
There's no
objection.
foundation.
Will you approach the bench, please?
Breathe. Everybody breathe. Everybody breathe. Fluff your auras like Whitney Rose. I love that our aura fluffing routine comes directly from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I feel like it's appropriate. All right, we're going to answer some questions while they're approaching the bench, and this counsel is trying to find a question that doesn't elicit hearsay. The Elaine of this trial. Owens is the Elaine of this trial. This lawyer is condescending. He is. We don't have to name call. His behavior, and I appreciate that you bleeped it. His behavior does come across as condescending. I don't see that as name calling. That's, I think, an interpretation of his behavior. It comes across as condescending to me as well. Here's the problem I have with Owens as someone who comes across as condescending. His client is Gwyneth Paltrow. So you, as attorneys for a celebrity client, need to humanize them. Johnny Depp's attorneys, I think, did this very well. I do not feel that this jury is going to like this particular attorney. And when you are the one speaking the most for a client who can seem untouchable and maybe off-putting, you have to be the likable one. You as the attorney have to fill in the gaps for your client. So even if they have questions about their client, they like you and they see your client's humanity through you. You have to humanize your client. And when you come across as a condescending, mansplaining asshole, it's not going to help because he comes across so condescending.
So the objection is overruled.
And so marmy.
Continue an objection for the record.
It's not a style I prefer.
I'm going to tell you things that Jenny has told us under
And
oath,
that's
and I want you to
difficult.
comment on them. Okay.
He also doesn't ask questions well. I can deal with off-putting if you're
Is
also
it true that
good
Jenny
at what you're doing.
moved out of her parents' household after high school?
The behavior is asshole.
Correct.
All right. And how much
And I am
older
gonna
are
we're
you
gonna just
than Jenny?
refrain
6 years.
from any more.
And how many years had you moved out of the house before Jenny moved out of the house?
So I moved out at 18, so she would have been 12. So she had 6 years at home without me.
Okay, and you
6 years at home without him.
And would you describe your parents' marriage as a good marriage when you left 6 years?
I would like
before
James to
their,
come back.
They were in the
James!
middle of a divorce and not an amiable one.
Scarlett, I think
his
that's
second divorce wasn't
the thing.
amicable either, was it?
It's a question. That's the foundational
Always say,
question,
"I
though,
don't know
counsel.
the answer. So when he says foundation,
Don't
If you
instruct.
don't know the answer,
Don't instruct the
rather
witness.
than hear this objection all the time, you can just say, I don't know.
He's asking
don't know.
foundational questions.
There's one judge in the courtroom, and it's not Judge Owens. So I appreciate it if you would try to explain.
That's, I am not a judge.
I think each questioner can give some ground rules to the witness, and I think it was appropriate.
Was the second marriage amicable?
I don't know.
Don't you really?
Oh my God.
You have no idea if your dad's second marriage parted
There's only
peacefully
one
or
judge
not
in this
peacefully?
courtroom, and it's not Judge
I
Owens.
don't know.
Well, what's your impression? Like, what do you know? Like, it was a.
Like,
the
what do
divorce
you know
went
is your
smoothly,
question?
or it didn't go smoothly?
Like, what do you know is not the question you
I
want,
know that
counsel.
they're friends today.
Okay, so your answer?
Her answer is, I'm not up all my dad's shit.
It seems like they've been able to continue a friendship anyway.
The jury heard evidence yesterday by Mr.
Oh, boy.
Goldstein, Dr. Goldstein, that these words described your father before the ski accident, and I want you to tell me.
I know,
just
the chat's
if
like,
you
"Where's James?"
observed this.
This one's more
He was
entertaining, though.
controlling.
I will say.
No.
He is,
He relentlessly tried to mold.
he is at least
All people, specific people.
interesting.
Jenny,
We're
I
gonna come
would
back right
say,
after lunch. I want to see the
yes,
rest
he
of this
was trying to
cross.
hold Jenny.
in a negative way.
I think he would say he was trying to be a positive influence.
I asked for your impression. Did you believe that's a positive thing?
I have no opinion on that.
Jenny
Good
has
for you.
a pretty strong opinion on that, doesn't she?
She
I'm not-
does.
Stand
That it
your
was in an
ground.
awful,
Good for you,
unhealthy
Polly.
way. Is that
Ask
her
Jenny these
opinion?
questions.
She's in her deposition.
Just ask.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm not. I've been told not to read the deposition, so. I'm
Because
just
it's
asking you to comment.
hearsay.
Was it an? Jenny believes it was an awful, unhealthy way. Do you
Objections
agree?
calls for state of mind.
No.
What? Where are the objections?
You
She
think
can't
that
testify to
Jenny
what
would
somebody else
say-
feels.
By the way, let me ask about Jenny for a minute.
Just
Have you talked
ask
to
Jenny.
about this trial?
She knew I was coming.
Jenny committed in writing to attend this trial, and then
I object, Your Honor, this is totally.
let me
It
finish my
is.
question. And
The
then
shit's out of
pulled
the-
out.
That's irrelevant.
yeah, the shit's out of the horse now.
The jury should disregard the question.
Do you know if Jenny's
Oh,
planning
shit.
to attend this trial?
Oh shit.
To answer that.
Oh, shit.
Oh, she is not planning on attending.
Do you know that
Jenny
there
was
was a point in
subpoenaed
time when
and Jenny bounced.
committed to attend this trial?
Oh,
Are you
I
aware?
was not aware.
Or that she was planning to attend the trial?
Jenny was in their opening.
Asked and answered, so there's not relevance to any more questions along this line.
Oh,
Did you
no.
or anyone you know
Owens
attempt
is
to
mad.
dissuade her from attending this trial?
Witness intimidation?
No, she felt like it would be a financial hardship. I said I would be happy to pay for her airplane ticket if she wanted to come.
I did too. Do you know that?
That's totally irrelevant.
I think the witness opened it up, so.
Do you know that I did? I offered to pay too.
No,
Oh,
I did not know.
Oh, shit, oh, shit. Oh, oh,
So
shit.
did you weigh in on that, Jenny? I don't think it's good for you to attend the trial.
No, not at all. I honor people's journey, and so
I think she
that's
does.
entirely up to her.
Oh, boy. The
Do you-
subpoenaed witness
Lunch?
is not
Yeah.
coming?
2 minutes?
Okay, go ahead.
Do you
He
believe
wanted
with
that in
this
front of the jury,
statement?
even though some of it was
With
improper.
Jenny, your dad was constantly overstepping boundaries.
He's trying to get Jenny's
Overruled, there's a standing objection on that.
Standing
he's
objection.
trying to get Jenny's testimony in through this sister
Yes
because
or no?
Jenny is not
Again,
going to get on a
repeat.
plane and they can't get her here because she's
He
out of
was
state.
constantly overstepping
seems out of
the
state.
boundaries she set. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
He would be frequently frustrated if his expectations were not met.
Agree.
He had a very strong emphasis on discipline.
With Jenny.
Sure,
Agree.
he had very high demands and would be very frustrated if his expectations were not met.
Disagree.
Okay, and to be clear, we're all talking about pre-ski collision, true?
Correct.
All right.
I'll talk
That he
about
was
this more, I promise.
domineering to Jenny and your mother.
Disagree.
Okay, I'm gonna split those because that was a compound question.
It was, and
Paul.
that's your fault,
So
counsel.
as to Jenny, was he domineering and emotionally and verbally abusive to her prior to the ski collision?
Disagree.
So she made that up. She's testified under oath.
We don't
She
know
made
that she
up.
It's
has
her experience. So
I want
you're
the
asking
truth.
my opinion,
of her experience.
and I think you have her experience.
She's like, I'm
Is
not
she
giving my
lying?
opinion of
I
her
mean, here's-
experience.
Are you saying there's one truth?
Yeah, just a second.
On certain facts, there
Counsel has
Sure.
an objection. What's the objection?
I don't think he can ask if someone else is lying.
He can't.
He doesn't know that.
Well,
It's an improper question.
This
It
is her sister, Your
I
Honor,
mean,
who
he can
she's
ask
very
what the
close
facts-
to.
somebody-
Stop talking over each other.
You know, the jury can make up its own mind, but he shouldn't be concluding for
Oh my God, the
someone that's not
argument,
here
the
whether she's telling
argument.
the truth or not. That's improper.
I mean, under certain circumstances, a lay witness can offer an opinion. I don't think I've heard enough foundation for that opinion, so sustained.
Yes.
So if Jenny says that your father was domineering,
Oh, I put on hand
do
lotion
you
and now I
agree or
can't do this.
disagree prior to the
that
ski
when I do that.
accident?
Disagree.
And if she so testifies, and we're going to
He just wants to ask these questions. That's part of
transcript
cross,
into
but
the
I don't like it.
record. If she so testifies,
He's doing his job in this.
that
but
is not true. He was not domineering. Is that
no,
what
these
you're
are
saying?
matters of perception.
I'm saying he was not domineering.
So if Jenny says he was,
That is her testimony.
And that's her
and you
experience.
would disbelieve it.
My testimony would say he was not domineering.
Would you
Her testimony is that he was.
Right. So they can both be true?
Objection argumentative.
Overruled.
Yes, two things can be true.
So depending
can have
on
different experiences
people's
with someone.
mental capabilities and disabilities, sometimes we experience events differently.
Is it possible
Humans
that,
human differently,
For
Owen.
instance, your dad wasn't domineering with you, but he was with Jenny?
I think it is possible. I wasn't home.
Sure.
I was in college for many of those years.
I like Polly too.
Your
She's like,
dad was verbally abusive to Jenny before the ski accident. Agree or disagree?
she doesn't agree with the verbally abusive words, so
Disagree.
yeah.
Your dad was emotionally and verbally abusive to your mother before the ski accident. Agree or disagree?
She disagrees.
I think he could have done better, but I wouldn't call it domineering and abusive. No.
Have you known your dad to go up and, are you aware that he went up and just punched a guy once?
What?
I was not aware of that.
You've never heard that your dad punched your mother?
What?
Your mother's, you've never heard that?
No, sir.
Finish your question,
That
sir.
Your dad
Ooh, I
believed
don't.
your mother was having an affair and went and punched the guy out? You don't know this?
I don't know that.
Okay. It's probably a good time to break. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll break now, or recess now for lunch, returning at 1:30.
Okay, we're back here right after lunch to finish this cross. I was thinking we might get into more medical testimony, but now we're getting into alleged affairs and people getting punched. So we're definitely going to be back here at what time? 1:30. That's 2:30 my time, so about an hour and a half. So we'll be back from lunch. I need to populate that stream in a few minutes. Megalina will do that in a minute.
All right, so we're recessed until 1:30. Is there any need for the court to come back sooner?
5 minutes sooner.
Oh, gosh.
On these character type questions, I want to kind of preview some things because
He
rather
doesn't
than get
want
objections
objections.
every 3 questions. So
Ask better
I
questions.
do.
Let's come 15 minutes early then.
Shit.
So 1:15.
1:15.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Owens, you're killing my lunch. They're just doing their job as trial attorneys, but that's what objections are. He's like, rather than getting objections every 3 questions. That's how trial works, my guy. You ask a question, they give an objection. Like, that's literally how this process works. Okay, let's do a quick summary. I guess we'll be back at 2:15, maybe 2:10. All right. Give it 5 minutes and then do a give a rechat. Okay, let us do a quick summary. I'm going to answer some questions in a speed round, and then we are going to break for lunch. We are at the end of the morning of day 3. We had a medical video deposition this morning, and then the plaintiff, Sanderson's middle daughter, Polly, testified. Her testimony from the plaintiff was to discuss how her father changed after this ski collision, how his ability changed, how his mental processing changed, how his relationships changed, how he is impaired because of this injury. That is what the plaintiffs are saying. She was not a precipient witness to the ski collision, but she was absolutely aware to what happened to her father after this head injury that he sustained. Of course, the defense, Gwyneth Paltrow's side, is going to try to minimize that, saying that this is natural aging, that this is really how he was before. So we are now just into the cross-examination of Polly, and we've left with a kind of fiery exchange and learning that the witness, Jenny, who is the sister, the youngest sister, who had a difficult relationship with her father, was subpoenaed, was going to come to trial. We heard about this sister in an opening statement, and we are now hearing that that sister is not going to travel to testify in this trial, and that both the attorneys had offered to pay for it and the sister had offered to pay for it, kind of alluding to the fact that maybe this witness, Polly, had dissuaded her sister, Jenny, from coming to testify. That's going to be very interesting. So we will see what's going to happen. We know that the defense very much wanted to call Polly to talk about her relationship with her dad. Polly is indicating that's not going to happen. Jenny's the younger child, 6 years younger, and was the one in the house while the parents were going through what sounds like a contentious divorce. And we're going to hear more about that after lunch. I feel for these daughters. They don't want to be doing this. I think the most powerful testimony to me today for the plaintiff, powerful testimony for me for the plaintiff, is it becomes more and more clear that this plaintiff has had substantial cognition changes and behavioral changes after this accident. Does that go to who caused it? No. Does that go to damage? Yes. The most powerful testimony today for the defense is that this plaintiff is obsessed with this trial, and being obsessed with this trial and obsessed with it in like an unhealthy way, I think goes to the argument for Gwyneth Paltrow saying, this is not my fault, and he just can't let it go. And that's why we're here. So that's the testimony I think is going to help each side today. And let's get to questions real quick. As I'm getting to questions, let me know in the chat. There's over 16,000 of you still here on the break. Let us know in the chat what you think is the most powerful testimony. And then I will say 2 things. One, before you subscribe to the channel and hit notification, we'll populate that other stream soon, but we're almost at 710,000 subs. Thank you for that. 2, if you want to stay in the loop with what I'm doing, lawnerdalert.com is where to go. Go sign up, and we will keep you in the loop on when I am streaming and what I am going to be doing throughout the week, especially when we're in trial. Sometimes those are fluid situations. Finally, my husband and I are doing a Q&A AMA this evening. I'm also going to talk to him a bit about this trial. This is a special celebration for the members on lawnerdsunite.com. So if you want to join that today, lawnerdsunite.com is where you need to go for that. Now that you're all caught up, we're going to speed run some questions, and I'm going to get some lunch and get that stream ready. Emily, how did the money request get dropped from 3 million down to 300,000? How did that happen? I'm still unclear on this and whether it happened or not. The punitive damages part of the case has been yeeted. The the attorney's fees has been capped, but I don't think all of what they're asking for has been capped to 300,000. The opening statements, they said to both that they were asking for $3 million, and that's what the plaintiff asked for in opening. So I think that's for their compensatory damages. Attorney's fees might have been capped, but the entire damages have not been dropped down from what I've seen of this case. Question, can Terry try another trial if it's 50-50, or is there a civil version of double jeopardy in the US? No, if there is a verdict, he cannot do it again. So if the resolution is no resolution, he can't do it again. Teeny Elephant, do the Patreon memberships and YouTube memberships have the same content? Not always. There are a few bonuses on Patreon of content that are not available on YouTube. And then on YouTube, of course, you have the icons by your name and things like that that aren't available on Patreon. But Biochemical Girl said, I broke 2 ribs, bruised 2 skiing when I was 25, solo, relatively slow crash, ski pole wedged against my ribs at an odd angle. I was barely able to walk or do much of the week due to the stupid pain. Ribs are stupid pain. And they talked about whether or not this plaintiff had his arm next to his side. That's how he broke it. But that goes to both ways, right? If he hits Paltrow, like they're back to back, and he hits Paltrow and rolls to the side, he could have had his arm tucked and rolled. Or if she hit him, he could have had his arm tucked and rolled. It could have happened either way for that. Question for Dr. B. Well, Dr. B is out. I had a root canal on 314. My chin is still numb. I'll ask him, but also if you have a medical question, call your doctor. Call your doctor. Miguelina, yes, in StreamYard, but then I want to put, actually, no, hold on. I want to put a thumbnail on it. So I'll populate it once I wrap up here. Thank you. Or actually go populate it. I'll throw a thumbnail on it later. So yes, I'll throw a thumbnail on it after. It'll be fine. So that we can throw this stream to that stream. So everybody has somewhere to go for 2:10 Central, please. Thank you. Cindy said, as someone who has a TBI and lots of neuro issues, I can tell you they freaking suck. Yeah, I absolutely. I have 24/7 head pain and 5 migraines lasting. That's awful. I'm so sorry, Cindy. Yeah, 10/10 do not recommend. And again, I absolutely leave the injury here with regard to the cognition. I believe these witnesses who are like, this man has changed substantially. Does that go to causation? No. But that has happened? Yes. Yes, I do. And I think it's hard to downplay it when so many witnesses who knew him before and after have said there is a tremendous change here. As a person who had a bad TBI 5 years ago, I can attest post-concussion syndrome is real and it sucks. I still have symptoms today. And lots with concussions do still have symptoms afterwards. I absolutely hear you. It's so frustrating. The impact of concussion is dependent upon the medical impact, the person's psych context, and the cause. My son was hit by a car 2 weeks ago. He was a pedestrian. We are seeing the complexity now. I'm so sorry for your experience, Shagsterry. That has got to be tremendously scary. And I wish your son a speedy recovery. I know this is something that Rick Hogue has talked about, will continue to talk about in recovering from his stroke. Neural impacts are very difficult. I have experienced lots of injury, orthopedic injury, and the difficulty in recovering from those injuries, I can only imagine what it is when your brain isn't working the way that it used to and the way that you want it to. This specific testimony for trial, not a deposition. It was in the context of a deposition. It was not live. So it was the second deposition to see if they were going to have this witness be able to testify about the fMRI, and that was ruled out. So I talked about it being a tactic earlier, so I'm trying to speed up. Emma said, you don't check previous MRIs. I don't know if it mattered to this doctor's diagnosis. With how defensive she is, you can tell she doesn't provide testimony often. I don't know if that witness provides testimony often, but her expertise was being challenged and she did not like it. That is very common with experts, and we see it all the time on cross-examination. Experts do not want to answer yes, no. They want to explain. And Casey, it's okay. Nightbot swoops them when it's too many emojis or too many caps. Nightbot grabs them. So don't worry. Carrie said, It's very normal and commonplace to obtain prior records when giving complete care. It's true, but this doctor said that's not her practice. I have seen that Dr. Friedman, I have not had a chance to watch it yet. Christina said the best thing about work from home on Thursdays, I get to see your clever analysis. Well, I try to be clever. Sometimes I'm just annoyed. Cynthia said, expert witness here. The expert ate James for lunch. She did not give an inch. She did not give an inch. She did not give an inch at all. And that's what experts do. They hold their ground. So LB said, I don't understand why they don't determine who hit who before parading these witnesses. Isn't that a key piece of information? Thanks for sharing. Well, they think they did, right? They had the eyewitness who the other side says isn't an eyewitness say what happened. That was their very first witness. That's still an issue, but they had their first witness say it. Solar activity glitching Earth electronics, that's very possible. Are there solar flares? Are we in a solar flurry? Are we flary? What's happening? It sounds like Gigi mother when her dementia started and my mother's last year with MS. And I'm not an expert. I'm not a neuropsych. All I can rely on is these doctors saying that these are post-concussive, and that's what it is. So I think Polly did a very good job of holding her boundaries, and I like that. So I liked Polly as a witness. I found her easy to understand. It seemed that she was uncomfortable at the end. I understand why she was uncomfortable, and it's fair. And she held her ground. I saw a comment here from Lauren, because parents treat all of their kids the same, not in this world. And when you have more than one child, or if you are from a family with more than one child, your relationship with your parents is going to be different than your siblings' relationship with your parents. Guess who the golden child is in my family? Hint, hint, it's not me. I like the witness. I kind of think her and Gwen would get along if things weren't what they were. Maybe. So, and again, my brother and I have an age difference and our relationships were very different. Also, I'm very neurodivergent and my brother's not. I am a much more difficult child, I am sure, depending on your perspective, but my brother is the golden child. I am the difficult child. Who wants Polly for a bestie? I want Polly to read me guided meditation and remind me to eat my greens, and help me can them. I liked Polly very much. Oh, chat is asking to be fluffed. Chat, hold on. Let me fluff you, chat. We are fluffing the chat. We are fluffing our auras. We are getting rid of all of the bad energy. Just, we don't have time for negative energy. We have snarky lawyers. The smirking is odd, right? I want him to win because I want this lawyer to lose. Jen, and that's hard because if the jury might feel the same way. They really need lawyers that are likable when your client isn't easily likable, right? And we've seen that in this chat. A lot of this has very, very strong feelings about Gwyneth Paltrow coming into this. Very strong feelings about her face, what she's wearing. She's kind of in a no-win situation, but just for the Gwyneth that don't like you. Let me do Sussex Sandra's question and then go for there. Emily, this lawyer is not likable. Asking the right questions. Agreed. He is letting us know Terry was a dick before the accident with the ASD daughter. And I don't know if we've heard that was the daughter's diagnosis, but I've seen that in the chat. I would be interested to see more about this. And it seems that he didn't quite have the relationship that he thought he did. And not all parents do well with neurodivergent children. Here's the thing. When you have an unlikable client, especially a celebrity, you need likable attorneys. But if you see this look at it from Gwyneth's perspective for a moment, even if you don't like Gwyneth, pretend it's not anybody else, just whatever, other person on ski slope, other just rich person on ski slope, right? Because they're at Deer Valley. So other person, this dude hits them, then 3 years later sues them, blames them for it. And they're like, I didn't cause that crash. This is the ski incident report. This is what the ski instructors saw. This isn't my fault. And that person does a press conference and becomes obsessed with this and will not let it go, will not settle it, and pushes this into the limelight continuously. What do? what do? You can't settle it. You are stuck sitting in court defending yourself. So if she is being wrongly accused of causing this crash, I can understand why she's mad. And he thinks it's her fault, and he might be wrong on that. He might be right on that. It's a hard circumstance. So what is Gwyneth to do? You know, her face is her face. She is who she is, and she has to sit there and deal with it. I think she's going to be fighting it. And he is obsessed with taking this to trial, which we've heard from his own daughter, obsessed with it. So they're going to try to prove that this didn't ruin his life and that this was caused by him. And if it's caused by him, you can't blame somebody else. If he caused this collision that ended up ruining his life, it's a horrible accident and you have to move on. And we will see. We will see what happens. Sherry, thank you for your first super chat. I appreciate it. Been watching since Step. Just bought my chocolate. Main points obsessive 50-50 at fault. I think that's a big part of this, and enjoy that when it comes in. Stina G, did you see Murdaugh requested money from his receiver's escrow account on appeal? It's untainted. Justin Bamberg posted it. Stina, I saw. When I am doing trial coverage, it is hard for me to keep an eye on everything else going on because I am kind of in this. I will be doing another Murdaugh on next week's podcast, another Murdaugh update, because when I am in trial, I really am focused on this testimony and keeping it straight in my head. And then when I'm also doing interviews on this trial, I want to make sure that I am keeping this trial front of focus. I can't split focus like that well. It's why our mods remind the chat to kind of stay on topic and not do breaking news, because I am ADHD. It can distract me from trying to stay engaged in the testimony, especially when the testimony is a little dry. It's harder to stay engaged for me. So it takes me a bit more work, and I don't want to get sucked down the rabbit hole. So when I'm in this trial, I am in this trial. And that's why that's one of our rules, that we don't pop in breaking news. Also, it can catch me very off guard, and it kind of derails me from being able to stream. So I really appreciate you guys for that. If you ever want to send me those types of updates, my email is public and you can absolutely send them there. I will see them because in the chat, it can derail me while I'm streaming. So thank you. I know you all are like, we want to talk about all the things. I want to talk about all the things too. Murdaugh updates, next week's podcast. And so if it comes up in the chat as it does, the mods can remind everybody that'll be next week's podcast, because a lot has happened in Murdaugh world while I've been covering this. But when I'm in trial, I kind of stay focused on this. Did anyone catch that Polly said Jenny has mental disabilities? I did catch that. Is the judge able to remove Owens for his snark? Oh no. Oh no. That is between Owens and the jury. That is between Owens and the jury. Did they ever say anything? Did they ever say anything about Gwyneth Paltrow leaving before dismissed yesterday? No. That is courtroom procedure they'll have to sort out. Sister and I are 12 years apart. I'm on the autism spectrum. We have very different dads, even if he was the same person. I understand how a sibling can sugarcoat a parent's behavior. Halloween, I'm sorry for that experience. I'm glad you shared it with us. Tiamo said, hit my head in a car accident, 55 miles per hour. 18 years later, developed complex tonic-clonic seizure disorder. I'm sorry for that. Brains are fascinating and difficult. Here for the truth said, I know exactly what she's going through it with my dad. Big hug to all who are living the unapologetic reality of ungracefully aging parents. It's hard. Can they find the GoPro footage? Does it go to a cloud? Back then it did not. I think the GoPro footage is gone. So I think they are gone. Lana R, thank you for the compliment on my earrings. I chose them because I find them flattering to the face of my shape, the shape of my face, which is why I like them so much. I love a hoop, but hoops do not work for streaming, especially with my in-ears and stuff. So I love these. So who has the GoPro to begin with? It seems that Terry had the GoPro, and I don't know if this is the daughter that he was emailing about it. I hope it comes up soon. Jen said, my sister and I had the same mom, but not the same mom. And that's different. Everybody has their own experience with their parents. my experiences with me and my husband, especially now that my oldest is a teen and makes snarky jokes. It's a very different relationship. Not for better or for worse. It's just different. I have different relationships with both of my kids because both of my kids are different human beings and have a different type of relationship. My oldest, as I wrap up and get to go, my oldest is starting to share my favorite love language of memes, and it is so much fun. It's just so much fun. My youngest, we're not there yet, but because his memes are Minecraft memes, my oldest has a dry, kind of savage sense of humor and speaks meme, and I just absolutely love it. And there's times my husband is like, I don't get. Travis and I are like, okay, I'm gonna tell you the meme he shared with me the other day. It was hilarious. So it was talking about dragons, and it was a meme of it was a meme posted on Instagram that was like it was a little photo of Daenerys Targaryen, and it said like, I am the mother of dragons. And then it was Hiccup Haddock from How to Train Your Dragon, and it said, I am a dragon rider or what have you. And then it was a picture of Donkey from Shrek and the person doing the meme just laughing. And it was like, and my son and I were dying. If you haven't seen Shrek, this doesn't make any sense because you don't know what Donkey and Shrek was doing with dragons, but it was hilarious to us. And we were dying, and my husband's like, I don't get it. And we're like, Donkey from Shrek, like mother of dragons, rider of dragons, and of dragons. Because it's Donkey from Shrek. And my husband, what? And my son and I are like, we give up. We give up. We have a very different relationship. We give up. Trying to explain memes to my husband is impossible. So that I've badly memed all of you. If you haven't seen Shrek, you don't get it, but Donkey and the dragon end up having children together. So that is that, because it's like Donkey and the dragon. Donkey, he's the fucker of dragons. See, because Donkey and the dragon in the cartoon have kids. So mother of dragon, rider of dragons, and sorry, Shrek's been out for a very long time. It's not a spoiler. All right, with all of that, y'all, it is time to say goodbye. D-Trug question: if I were a juror, after all the evidence has been presented, can I disregard all the medical evidence and make my decision solely on the evidence that either proves or disproves negligence? It's a two-part question. The first part is, who's responsible for the collision? That has to be decided. Once you decide that, then the medical stuff comes up. But the first question is negligence. And the medical testimony doesn't go to that. So they're going to have to do a two-phase analysis. With all of that, we will be back here in about 45 minutes. I'm going to go get some lunch. Y'all get you a lunchy lunch. We're here all day today, apparently. Oh my God, MB in the chat just said Shrek came out 22 years ago. Fuck, man. Damn it. We're old. Michael wanted to say thank you. My mom and I have bonded over watching your coverage of cases. That's so kind. She's fighting stage 4 colon cancer. Colon cancer is something very close to my family. So Michael, huge hugs to you and to a precious time and recovery with your mother. We've not always had a good relationship. Bonding over your videos has been a priceless gift. You're going to make me cry. And I've had to shift gears from making very inappropriate jokes about a cartoon donkey to my heart going out to you. So a big hug to you and to your mother. I can't wait to see what both of you think of this, Attorney Owens. And if you're yelling James along with me, I'm going to start making odd ones out jokes by the afternoon. I'm going to be like, James, back to Subaway. Anyway, with that, go eat lunch, chat. We all need to stay hydrated. All right, stay hydrated. Hydration's key. Get some food, get you a snacky snack. I'll see you back here in about 45 minutes. We're going to see what the rest of this cross-examination looks like. Are they going to ask about the GoPro footage? I want to know too. All right, bye. You can find all the Law Nerd goodies at lawnerdshop.com. Connect with me on social media at the Emily D. Baker. And don't forget to check out my podcasts, The Emily Show, and the new podcast, Quick Bits, summarizing everything I talk about on my Tuesday and Thursday live streams. You know, when you only have time for just the quick bits.